This is Naoki Yoshida,
This is Fern Hall.
and you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm Fusion X. Joining me today, we've got Zanidra, we've got Aldino, and we've got Rook.
Hello.
So last night was the start of the 14-hour broadcast. Had a live letter in there. Had a lot of mahjong.
Yeah.
If that's your thing, actual mahjong, not in-game mahjong, which I thought was interesting.
So much
I would have
mahjong.
thought for sure that they would have done that in-game, but
No way,
that
no
was
way,
not
no
the
way.
case. Quick news before we get into the live letter. Patch 5.15 is out. Lots of Blue Mage stuff, lots of new PvP. Have you guys had a chance to check that out yet?
Yes, yeah. What is
What is that?
No, I just did. I actually just went in and did the new PvP today, actually. And the Blue Mage stuff, I had to level kind of from scratch because I had not done it when it first came out. I did about 20 levels and then never touched it again. So I did get to level 51, started doing Carnival, got into a bunch of the acquisitions and stuff, and I'm working towards Heaven's Sword. And it's a lot of fun, actually. I don't know if anybody else has been having a good time, but I've been really
I
enjoying
haven't
it.
touched it since the update. I did you guys see the Morble mount requirements?
Yes.
So we've
Oh
run
my
out of
gosh.
stuff to do for our static, except for Alexander. And there are people in the static who are still like, I don't want to. So
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was just like, oh no.
yeah, we have one Serio dog left, and then we're all just gonna go as Blue Mage and
Left.
get ourselves more mounts.
Might as
Yeah.
well.
One dog.
Oh,
remains.
and Omega. We have to get you that Omega.
Yeah, it's fine.
I honestly, I love that they did that because raid content, right? So much in so many different games. When it's not current, it's not current. And like, that's it, right? Like nothing ever happens to it ever again. And you might have this really cool fight. You might have a really cool design that's actually an amazing piece of content in the game. But because it's not current, people don't do it. So I love the fact that they took some of those fights and put them in for this sort of bonus content. Is it a huge hassle? Like, yeah, it's not going to be something super easy. But at the same time, to re-envision those fights with non-traditional, roles with Blue Mage is so fun. And I think that's honestly a cool way to kind of keep it run and keep it active from people that might be interested in doing that. So
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of hate because of that stuff today, or this past week, because when they introduced Blue Mage, it was a job designed for solo play.
Yeah.
Oh, you want the Blue Mage mount? Here's your solo play with 7 other people.
That said, they did kind of suggest that you should be doing things with other
Well,
specialized
and
jobs.
and
Like,
also
even
in that
thinking
regard
that in the
too,
future
things
there would be more of
change.
them.
yeah, things do
Things
change. And it's kind of funny because I think I had the most fun with Blue Mage when I was running it with people anyway. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
like the Mask
Oh, yeah.
Carnival, the Mask Carnival is 100% solo content. And that in and of itself is its own challenge. So it's not like they've forgotten the fact that there is solo content available with it. But I think it would be really weird, especially in an MMO, to be like, hey, we have this whole new thing we're going to be developing with limited
Yeah.
jobs. But by the way, it's like exclusively solo content.
Right.
So I'm glad that they're adding in some co-op stuff. And I mean, of course, like getting the skills is really fun to do together and all that kind of stuff.
Gets
so.
hilarious when you're in a
Oh,
group
yeah.
with a bunch of other
Mhm.
Blue Mages because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We have all these random skills, and some people are like, "I'm gonna use these ones. I'm gonna use these ones." And obviously, there's the ones that are best for quickly murdering the crap out of stuff. But sometimes somebody just pulls something out of nowhere, and you're like, "I didn't think to do that way, but all right, cool."
Sure, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also had Onsal Hakar, which is the new PvP mode. Super weird. This morning I logged in because I wanted to play some matches. It's the only version of PvP right now in the Frontlines roulette. Doing the roulette took me 25 minutes to queue up. After that,
That's weird.
no more than 2 minutes, and I queued in like several times like that. Like, what? That's
You must
weird.
have caught up with the like.
Yeah.
It was the
I
rules of
Yeah.
the
guess
drive, and you just
it was
after that
weird.
lined up with
Yeah,
all
it must have been just a
Yeah.
horde of people doing it. It was super strange, but I don't dislike it. I like the music. The music is always really good with the PvP stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna do it enough times to get the mount.
Yeah.
I kind of
really
wish when
do.
I when I went in today, I popped into it and I went in with a friend who hasn't done much PvP. And, he was really nervous about it because he was like, I never know what's happening in PvP. And I was going, oh, you know what? I've done PvP in a variety of MMOs. So typically, like, when I go in, I can recognize those modes and I'm kind of going, okay, so we probably need to get this thing or capture that thing, or, we have to kind of plan it this way, right? But it really did make me kind of stop for a moment and go, I wish that there was like a PvP tutorial, in the sense that at least like the first time when you queued in, you'd get a little thing that would pop up and like tell you these are the objectives, here's some hints, or like here's some tips. And I know it's not something that like veteran PvP players are going to care about that much, but for a game that has a lot of other kind of like teaching tools, it feels really weird to me that new players go into these modes and then they feel totally overwhelmed and then they just kind of leave because they don't understand it. And my friend was like that. He was like, I still have no idea what just happened, but
They feel like the only place they really address that is in the patch notes themselves. When they release the patch notes, they're like, "This is how you do it."
They should.
Have fun.
Well,
See you later if you didn't read it.
Yeah, because there's no help text for it or anything, right? There should be help text, or there should be, at the very least, throw up a information board or an NPC in Wolves Den, right? That can be like, hey, or the peer, and be like, here, what mode do you want to know about?
Yeah, they can easily do that.
Or something.
It'll keep people from doing it because they'll have that anxiety of, if I go in, I won't know what to do, and people are going to yell at me. So it just really helps to have that.
Everybody yells at everybody. It's not just you. my favorite, I noticed this today. So you always have like the one or two people like, oh, go mid, go south, go whatever. Yeah. One person was just doing sound effects, and they would just say the map. Well, very helpful. Thank you.
Oh,
yes, you
so
are
helpful.
It's that
if we win, it's because of you and your super specific tactics that you're conveying to us. Thank you.
Your loud, annoying ping noises. Thank you so much. Love it.
We're Dota now. That's something I remember.
Also going on right now, there's a 120-hour free login campaign from now until January 14th. So if you're not playing right now and you wanna get in, you wanna dabble around a little bit with some stuff, check out. We got the Starlight Celebration coming up here in a few days. You have until January 14th to check that out. The Eorzean Symphony Volume 2 Blu-ray is now available. Comes with orchestrion rolls for Tsukuyomi's Pain and Worm's Tale. So that's a thing if you would like that. Starlight Celebration starts on December 18th and goes until the 31st. New items for it will include the Saintly Barding, Starlight de Chocobo Orchestrion Roll, a choir concert advertisement, a Starlight Roll cake, and a Starlight Gubu wreath.
Cake is pretty cute, not gonna lie.
I love the barding.
I'm all about the wreath. Yeah. I like
the wreath is so good. Yeah. Just like a little naked festive
I want to get one of the big pictures of like the Ul'dah, and then I want to get a few Gubu wreaths in front of it.
Yes, good throwback. I'm so glad we see a barding again for this, because I was just recently browsing. I was looking for some options for barding for my Choco, because sometimes I just like to have Choco around and, live that Final Fantasy dream where you've got your companion. And I realized that it had been a little while. I mean, we get the new bardings that we usually, can craft from Extreme Primals, but as far as just like bardings that you can get around, it had been a little while since I'd seen just some fun variations added. So I'm really excited.
My Chocobo was actually in the stable for like months, and I didn't even realize it. I was just, like every so often I would be doing like something, and I'm like, that's weird how like my Gestalt Green icon is like dimmed out. Like, why can't I summon my Chocobo? Whatever. And then I'm like, oh, it's in the stable.
Didn't worry about
I've been using all the other mounts. Like, I don't use the Chocobo. Like, all that time maxing out all those damn Shadowbringers fates to get that barding, and I don't even use it.
It's like you blow the whistle, no Chocobo. Yeah, probably busy. It's fine.
That's fine. I got a mechanical frog robot. That's fine.
Right, exactly.
Not a big deal. I have a car from another dimension. It's we'll be able to get around still. It's okay. Yeah. All right, that's going to take us into live letter 56. First big announcement up front here before they delve into patch stuff was Final Fantasy XIV is now at 18 million registered accounts worldwide.
Over 18 million.
Over 18 million, yes. So just a few people that have signed up to play this game.
That's accounts, not characters.
Yes, that is accounts. That's always the thing, right? It's the easiest way they could get a high number. That's what that is. Patch 5.18
is the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's accounts and not characters.
Yeah.
Then
Oh no, that's
by
yeah.
8 potentially.
Well,
Yeah.
well. I mean from the point of registered accounts versus active players.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Active players. That's what I was going
Those
for.
are- yeah.
Took me a minute.
Yeah. They always use registered accounts because, I mean, you could be not playing, but you're still registered.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
You're on their
That's
email
what-
list.
Yeah.
Patch 5.18 is right now scheduled for December 24th. With it, we will get the removal of weekly restrictions for Eden's Gate and Eden's Gate Savage. Deep Shadow Solvent will be purchasable using your manufactured coins, and Season 14 of the Feast will begin. So
Hope you guys aren't busy on that particular day.
yeah, nothing.
What else could you
December
be doing?
24th. No, nothing happens that time of year.
I mean, I guess the good thing is that if you do just have a lot of time off because of the holidays, you can kind of take advantage of that and maybe catch up if there's gear you need from Eden's Gate and stuff like
Sure.
that, right?
Mhm.
I'm really grateful that they didn't just load a ton of stuff into that, little patch. I mean, obviously they wouldn't, but like
it's a little patch for people that aren't doing Blue Mage stuff. It's like, here, go upgrade your tome weapon. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Patch 5.2. So we got the title already. We didn't get a logo. We didn't get an image. Patch 5.2 is going to be Echoes of a Fallen Star, and that's supposed to be coming mid-February of next year. So not
could it
too
mean?
far out. I
Yeah,
mean,
not
we
too
know
far.
what it means. Lots of history here from the original planet here.
Is it Bahamut? That was a fallen star.
It's about
Fallen
one of the
moon?
little Lady
Yeah.
Fae stars who is no longer part of the group.
Oh, I see.
Oh, this is all just a
Oh,
huge
man.
Songbirds tie-in.
Is
Okay.
it
Yeah.
perfect
Mhm.
blue? I don't know if I can take that in 14.
So with patch 5.2, we're getting a lot of the normal stuff, right? New main scenario quests. You don't say. This is going
Tell
to
me
be a big
more things. I want to know more things.
this
Tell me
is
more
going to be a big
things.
point of discussion. So new instanced dungeon. That's for
Mhm.
those counting. That's one.
Yes.
They said that during the live letter, moving forward, there will only be one dungeon added with every patch.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're using resources on other things.
hmm
How do you
You
guys
know-
feel about
happy.
that?
I mean, yeah, I'm not too surprised. I think when we were talking about stuff, even with 5.1, like one of the biggest things that kept coming up for us was just how much stuff came in 5.1. And, with everything from the Crafter rework to Ishgard to Blue Mage to all of this stuff, all the new trials, Ultimate. I couldn't believe how much they packed in there and how much kind of new stuff they're kind of working towards here.
hmm
I figured at some point something was going to have to be compromised. And I was a little surprised it was dungeons. I've seen a lot of people bring up good points about the fact that dungeons aren't always like the most long running content or, relevant, but I love dungeons. Like, I'm one of those weird people that can run dungeons. I'll just log in sometimes and I'll do rulies of dungeons for no reason because I like them and I love seeing like the story and the design and I love helping people through.
And,
the music.
talking about
you
that,
know?
that's actually a fair point too. So obviously you think about, okay, if we're only getting one dungeon now, that means it's always going to be MSQ related, which
Yeah.
means there's going to have to be trust. So that's already like something extra, right? Is that allocation of resources to develop the AI for the trust for that specific dungeon.
Specific, yeah.
So that's already more work than they've been doing in previous patch cycles. But then if it is story related and they're only doing the one, like obviously they're only doing one dungeon, but does that mean they still have the resource, like more than normal resources for one dungeon? Does that mean that they can make those
Yeah.
dungeons a little better? Like maybe
Could
we
be.
don't know.
No evidence of it so far, in
No.
my opinion.
No.
February.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no idea. But we were even talking a little bit before we went live about the possibility that, maybe this does give them a little bit more room if they're not developing something down the road that's going to completely, change what
totally
we think
are.
about patch cycles, which is very likely, right? We think we're going to probably be getting some very different
That's
new
the biggest
content.
issue is there's, and we've talked about this before, the idea of experimental content, something that they want to try. And so what we've seen from that so far is largely stuff that's flopped, right? We're going into our third iteration of Diadem. Eureka was very hit and miss for a lot of people. And now they're actually taking away something that people liked and looked forward to, and they're like not telling us right up front where that's going. We have some guesses based on what they've kind of hinted at, but yeah, it's definitely some very cautious, slightly unoptimistic. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with it. That having been said, one of my biggest issues with 5.1, especially the MSQ, is we didn't go back to Amarot.
Right.
So to help counter this one dungeon, they're like, oh, also the next dungeon is Amarot based. So thank you, Square. I appreciate that. I
love
the
it.
How
dungeon.
did you? Oh, all right. That
All
was
right,
true.
fine.
Yeah.
All right, fine. We'll see how this goes. This is Anemesis, Aniter. The word anemnesis, we got a definition here because that's a weird word. The recollection of a past life, which is interesting when you consider that the patch title is Echoes of a Fallen Star. So we'll see. I mean, maybe in our previous life before we were split into 14, maybe this was our house. Maybe it's a museum. Maybe they like museums, right? We had that museum up in Az's Law we checked out. Who knows?
Yeah, favorite theory so far, and this is what I'm holding out for, is the idea that this could be like a dungeon that makes use of the echo noise we haven't seen before. That, maybe you go to this place and it's a ruin, or, it's part of it could be part of the illusion of the city there, but people have kind of noticed that there is some growth. It looks like it could almost be one of the ruins that's at the bottom of the ocean, and possibly we go there and the echo triggers, and then the dungeon is us reliving this echo or this moment of history.
And that's not completely unwarranted, because how did patch 5.1 end? You echoed a Sinian and then you played through
yeah
content.
Yeah.
That would be it would be so amazing. I'd be so into that. Like I would run that one dungeon over and over and over.
Yeah, I just want more Amarot, and we're getting it, so I'm happy. That's all I needed.
Check out every detail. See what kind of books your past self really likes.
Right? Yeah, like Koji, man. Like there better be a bunch of books I can read.
Yeah,
whatever this thing actually is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fusion, I love the idea. I didn't even think about it possibly being our house, but I love the idea of it being something that
I mean it could be like like the tax office or something, and like I would still want to go in there and like learn about everything. There's also going to be new Beast Tribe quests with the Guitari, which are the Kikern on the first. So it's been a while since we've had that.
Zen, you sound a little excited about this.
They're cute and dumb and terrible, and I love them.
And they exchange clink for items.
Yeah.
They will focus on gathering. So it's not something like the Namazu where it's like we're gonna do crafting and gathering and you just whatever. Mm-hmm. It's
now,
just
is it gathering or theft. Knowing these rat people as we do, gathering or
that
theft.
That got unexpectedly dark and
gathering. I mean, theft is just gathering from different nodes. That's fine.
Or people's satchels or caravans.
Right. Don't use a pickaxe, maybe.
You just sneak up to somebody and you just like hit the side of their pants with like a pickaxe. Like I'm just gathering.
Gil pouch falls down. It's like,
hi, I'm the Warrior of Darkness. I'm just gathering. I'm just helping to save the first. Just some coins fell out of here. That's okay. Don't worry about it. That's
No, I've loved that type of mob since 11 and Autogon. Yeah. So I love them. I'm excited.
I can remember back in like 2.x, people were theorizing that we would get Kikern as a Beast Tribe, and we never did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised, honestly, that they never showed up. I mean, for the amount of detail that's paid to the other Beast Tribes, the fact that they never showed up in ARR or any of the other stuff was really surprising. So I wasn't expecting them to be here for our next Beast Tribe, but it actually makes a lot of sense, all things considered.
Yeah. We got New Chronicles of an Era Quests, The Sorrow of Werlet.
Werlet? Yeah.
These names are weird. Werlet. It looks like he might be one of Gaius's buddies. So anything revolving around Gaius, like, sign me up. I'm super excited. Well, you know, it's so I think this kind of makes me think of the God, what was the one in heaven? The Scholastic hit?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's just this, it's that quest line, but with Gaius and his little group of buddies, because we're not in Ishgard anymore. We're, you know, doing other stuff, and so this is the side
excited.
Story. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be really
nice.
cool.
Do we get his cool uniform?
Yeah, that
so they actually have the NPCs actually in the screenshot that they provided are wearing some new stuff. So I would presume.
Yeah,
that
maybe
we
it's a
would get that
reward, or it comes
at
from
the
something
end.
else.
Yeah, I think at some point. Yeah.
I like that weird shirt poncho hoodie thing. I want it.
I don't know what it is, but I want it. So one of the big questions with Shadowbringers has been, what is the storyline for the trials gonna be? In ARR, it was Primals. In Heaven's Word, we had the Warring Triad. In Stormblood, we had the Four Lords. In Shadowbringers, at least the first one, we are going up against the Ruby Weapon. Weapon.
It's so good. I'm so excited.
I know.
Ruby Weapon was trending last night in North America. It was a very interesting time. People are like, "Is this about the 7 remake?" No, it has nothing to do with the 7 remake.
I was kind of.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna ask you if you've been waiting for these ones for a long time.
Oh yes, the weapons. I've been waiting for them for so long. I was kind of sad because the 7 remake is only Midgard. Midgard. Yeah, and it's funny because I was like, oh yeah, I'll get to fight all the weapons. Oh, I won't. We won't even be leaving. Okay. Well, that's fine. And then Ruby Weapon just shows up in 14. Thank you. Good. Hey guys.
I heard you were looking forward to fighting me at some point, so I'm here early. Hope that's okay. I didn't RSVP. Can I just show up at the door?
I just hope it has no walls and you can jump off, so that 7 people could jump off at first, so that nobody gets kicked out of the battle, like in 7.
my looking at the screenshot that they gave us a screenshot, which of course is development screenshot subject to change. It definitely looks like we are back on the source. It looks like it is Garlemald based, so we're starting to get back to things in for like I don't want to say the real world, right, but I want to see how this ties in to that thing that we fought as Estinian at the end of 5.1. There's gonna be a connection there. I think it's gonna be really cool. So we're gonna get Ruby Weapon and Ruby Weapon Extreme, and then we're also getting another trial that we don't know about, but it sounds very spoilery and very MSQ related.
Right.
So
have you ever had that? Where they just like piled on too?
Second MSQ? I don't think so.
I don't think, as far as I know, I can't think of a precedent where we had.
Well, we had
Are we for sure getting them at the same time, or do you think they'll space them?
I don't know.
They said I think they said it was MSQ based. But the heck was the one at the end of ARR? The Chrysalis?
Yeah.
Chris.
Oh, did that come out simultaneously with something? I mean, there is the Chris. There is.
Well, I mean, that would have come out with some other kind of trial probably, because that was the first time they really did outside of like launch that they did an MSQ based trial.
Yeah, that's true. What was that? What would that have been with? I don't know.
That would have been like 2.4, 2.5.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really. We were talking earlier about the one dungeon thing, right?
Yeah.
And I have wondered, because like sometimes with the dungeons, it feels as though they do have to almost create a reason to have you deal with this dungeon, right? Oh yeah, you gotta go there and you gotta find this guy because I don't know, but you have to go through a dungeon. There's like a plan, so sometimes it's kind of hard to do that versus like a fight, which is very much, you can roll that just naturally into the flow of a story. And with all of us, having talked so much about the fact that Shadowbringers almost has this unprecedented momentum going into this patch cycle, I can't help but wonder if, some of the things they're working on might be because the story is so huge right now and because we're leading towards this big clash with Zodiark, Hydaelyn, maybe we're going to see some fights and some content coming out of this patch cycle that are almost closer to what we would expect from an X pack or like a mini X pack or, in pacing and release, because you can't really just be like, oh, it's patch time. Sorry, we're going to just slow the roll because Shadowbringers was great, but, whatever. We'll just draw this out and it'll be vague and then new X pack.
Going back, we were talking about, the kind of precedent for having an extra like MSQ or story-based trial. There were more trials at the end of 2.x than I remember. So Chrysalis was 2.5. Battle in the Big Keep was 2.5.
Okay.
Earth's Fount was 2.5. Steps of Faith was 2.55.
What was?
Steps of Faith.
Okay.
So,
That's fun.
So it'll be probably like a Steps of Faith Christmas type thing.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so what do we think is it gonna be? Is it gonna be Xenos?
I want it to be a
Arbor.
Guardian Force. Because we're going to
we might get that as a dungeon boss though.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
right.
But I want it to be.
I mean, that's fair. I'm all for it.
Well, what did they feed us at the very end of the last MSQ? Like mysterious, probably not Arbor, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, Ardbert, not Ardbert. I mean, I can't imagine that they would rush us into, like the stuff that Xenos is kind of leading towards. I cannot imagine we would be fighting him / Zodiac. Like that seems like it would be too soon. But I mean, maybe we know that we're getting this sort of Amoratine theme with the dungeon that is going to be from the MSQ, so maybe there's something more there with the echoes or with the the past that we aren't,
especially if it's our echo.
Yeah.
Ardbert is part of us, so kind of ties them together a little bit.
But the other thing too is, I mean, and they showed Ardbert, right? Like what it's
big
not
quotes,
him,
big quotes from everybody,
but it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
So I think that we might be going storyline wise, we might start to be picking up the rest of ourselves. The rest of the story of 14, we're just finding ourselves, literally pieces of ourselves. I don't know, but it's also getting back to the source, right? We're starting to move away from the first a little bit. I should say a little bit. It looks like we're really moving a lot away from the source between Chronicles of a New Era and the trial stuff. So yeah, I really don't know what the secret could be. It could be, it could be something with Xenos, but not the last fight, right? Well, no, because I still need to read that damn side story. I bought the book and everything. I mean,
I keep wondering too if we're ever going to have a direct confrontation with Hydaelyn, because it's been a long time since we actually communed with her or communicated with her, and we know that some of this, it's so interesting to me going back to when Midgard-Stormer almost stripped us of the Blessing of Light, because at the time I was mad. I was sitting there going, I'm sorry you took my special boy status from me. I worked hard for those crystals. Now you're just gonna take them? You are my favorite dragon, but you are quickly going down the list for me. And
you're my favorite dragon, but you're being kind of a dick right now.
You're being kind of a dick right now.
Dragon Grandpa.
But knowing what we know now, it's so fascinating to me that Midgard was almost like, lol, you don't know anything yet, but I'm gonna take this from you because this could be real bad for you down the road. So I keep wondering if at some point we are going to have to actually confront Hydaelyn and our relationship with
and so
her.
that was the point I was getting to. So when I theorized that maybe it's Xenos, it was like, well, what about like Zodiark and stuff? Well, that's what 5.5 is for. We gotta. That's the
we just
fight.
Didn't even think of.
Right. I mean, it could totally
it's more
be
fun if we're blindsided, right?
Yeah. Exactly, right.
They'll just like part 2 of the live letter. They'll just be like, okay, so the Chronicles of a New Era quest we introduced, just to like, they're like, Fusion, we know you love Gaius. We know you also like Hildebrand.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mix them up. We're gonna just Gaius and Hildebrand together. And we'll get a new trial. It'll be the fifth fourth Gilgamesh trial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would certainly be unexpected.
That would be.
That
Yep.
would blindside me. Yes.
I also
Yeah.
don't want it. I don't want to see another Gilgamesh
Yeah.
trial until they introduce fake glamour weapons.
Yeah.
It's
need to
like I don't know
stop
how they haven't done that yet. I don't understand how they haven't done that.
Dragoons
before.
need a broom. Come on.
We
Yeah.
need paladins
Agree.
need their Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like dragoons get the Fraudamanti. Like, come on,
Yep.
come on. There is going to be a new raid, obviously. Next stage of Eden. This is going to be Eden's Verse, so we'll get normal and savage modes for that. They show a preview of the arena for Ramu, which looks crazy.
I don't.
Well, but maybe
Um,
not Ramu.
Yeah.
I've
mean, it
also
could be-
seen people thinking it could be Ixion, and I would be
Yeah,
so down
those are
for
good
that.
plans.
It would be so
or
exciting.
it's
It's a
Ramu.
combination.
It's Ramu mixed with our thoughts of Odin, so it's Ramu on
Yes!
Yes, that would be pretty cool.
Ixion. And Ixion is actually just
You're like,
the name
let
for
me
his
think
beard.
about all the primal old
and
guys
Ramu
and smash
just
them into
rides
one.
his beard
Yeah.
around.
Are you
Um,
ready for the duty action that is dodged lightning? Because I'm ready for it. Like in
that was
dodge
gonna bring me to my next point. This
Yeah.
screenshot that they gave
Yeah.
us, right? So you have this kind of stage center. It's hard to tell if it's like floating or like the land, if it's land
like
or
a
what. But
spire or something. Yeah.
yeah, but there's definitely like this kind of background of spires, and there's lightning
Yeah.
hitting these, and all I can think of is that damn zone from 10,
Yep. The
where you have to
Thunderbolt.
dodge
it is.
light. Yeah, we were right on the same page
Yep.
there. Yeah.
Yep. That's what I was
So-
thinking too.
I'm
So
ready.
it's interesting, and it looks really intense. I mean, you have the rain and stuff on it too,
Mhm.
which made me wonder. I mean, would they ever bring back a Bismarck weather kind of, mechanic again?
I could
Maybe
see
they
them
mix it
doing.
in.
I could see them doing puddles and don't stand in puddles because you might get electrocuted.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe if you screw
also-
up too much, the rain happens and you just can't help but getting electrocuted.
Yeah, that could be.
I would,
interesting.
as a duty action too, I would also accept just like a giant like beard clipper action.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
just-
that could be that. You're not fighting Ramu. So right, because it's Ramu and Odin, right? But the way
Yeah.
that Odin works with Zantetsuken, it's weird. Ramu, it's the beard that's the
You
real
thought about
source
this
of
It
power.
just
a lot.
starts to.
And
Oh, and the beard starts to cover the screen, and then you kill him, and then the beard goes away. Right? It's just like Odin,
Okay.
where
it's
the
like
screen
it's like
goes
the
dark.
it's like the ink power up in
Mhm,
Mario
I'm
Kart,
leaving.
right? It just starts to obscure your vision.
Now, do we think
Yeah.
there's any correlation between cleanly shaven Ardbert and full beard Ramu? Maybe there's something there we need
there's
to
the
explore.
plot twist.
I need to get
Yeah.
out the murder board to see. if we can
Yeah,
connect
tin hat time. Everybody, let's get our pins out. Let's go.
Gosh.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so we
I'm
knew
kidding.
we know we'll get some kind of version of Ramu. We should
What-
at some point, right? Probably what are we else going to see? Ifrit
Yeah.
and Garuda.
Yeah,
It depends
I'm
on how many original
Yeah.
things they throw at us, like Eden or the
Mhm.
the second one, whatever the heck that
they
thing
have
was
space
called.
to do all the elementals and then
Yeah.
2 more just dungeon related. So
Yeah.
we'll
Give
probably
me-
get another Eden, Gaia, and then the other
Yeah.
elementals.
Mhm,
I
yeah.
just I really want to see. I've loved the rehashes. It's really fun going in
Yeah.
and seeing, because a lot of those primals do have so many recurrences throughout the whole Final Fantasy franchise. I think this was a smart way to sort of show us different sides of those primals. But I also am just so interested in the actual story of this raid set and all the things that tie into it and the sort of collaborative elements that we knew were coming in
Mhm.
even from Kingdom Hearts and all this stuff.
Never,
So I'm
never trust Urianger ever again. Is
No,
really
that's what I was gonna say. He's the next trial.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
We just find out he's been hiding more stuff. We're like, you know what? We've had it. You're gone.
One
You're out of
thing-
here.
stop lying.
One thing I don't want to see is more Ramu Eggies. I don't want to be
Thank you,
hurt
Zed.
anymore. Thank you.
What if it's like a 1 in a million drop from the? It's like a bonus chest.
I just don't want to
Unlock
see them
the-
in the battle. I just don't want to see them. I've tried to forget about Eggy Glamours.
But
Let
what
me
if
forget it?
what if they're like a darker purple?
Okay, but what if they can't do
They're not
two
the
dungeons
same. They
now?
changed the color.
Oh,
But if
Yeah,
what?
look, but what if they can't do 2 dungeons now because they're working on a robust Eggy Glamour system?
the second dungeon died. for
I
Eggy
mean, to be
Glamour.
fair, they figured out what was the main issue on that, and we still haven't gotten anything. So
Yeah, no, it's just not. Just don't
yeah.
even mention. It's fine. It's gone.
yeah. And so that brings us to the next big bit of content here that we've been wondering about for a while. A new quest series for upgradable equipment. So these are your 5.x relics, and of course, right now.
You don't sound excited.
Look, I'm excited. Like, here's the thing. I love getting the relic weapons, and I feel like for me, and I'm curious about all of you. So what has your experience been like? For me, ARR relic. There were so many points during that where I was like, oh, I'm having so much fun. Oh, we're learning more about the Zodiac. Oh, this is really cool. And then the next beat, I'd be like, you want me to do what next? But my soul, I just spent it all in the last one. I don't know if I can do the next one. And then we get into Heavensward, and I actually, minus a lot of the repetitive, instance farming, I liked the story. I felt like there was, decent momentum. It wasn't super exciting, but it kind of had its own flow. And then Eureka is so interesting and so different, but pre-nerf on a lot of Eureka, oh boy, was it just brutal.
I mean, and it was like we kind of touched on earlier, it's that idea of experimental content, but would people have even done it if relics were a part of it?
Yeah, it's
Who
tough
knows?
because I think Eureka had so much good that came out of it, but it's almost in a place now where I wish it had been at release. I mean, it feels like it is so much, there's so much more flow to it as you kind of push through the different portions, and Baldesion Arsenal is so neat. I wish people could have, just gone through to that and seen the culmination of all this story. I love so much about it that I'm hopeful about the new relic, but I'm also real nervous about the new relic.
So I might be a crazy person.
Yeah.
I mean, we know you are, but go ahead.
Starting with that,
We still love you.
I did not give a crap about any of the gear in Eureka. I didn't really like the way most of it looked. I didn't work towards hardly any of it.
Here's my question before you continue real quick. Did you play 11?
Yes, I did.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I was curious.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of had fun doing Eureka a little.
You can admit it.
I liked getting the other stuff out of Eureka. I liked getting the little minions. I liked getting the furniture pieces.
That's why, yeah.
The hair.
So many Charlene wardrobes.
Yes,
there's a lot.
My whole house,
very many.
Charlene wardrobes.
But I don't know.
As far as the eye can
something
see.
to do. It was something to do, and I don't know. I enjoyed just doing the content. I passively worked towards weapons and stuff, but I don't have any of the final versions of anything.
Yeah, that was the nice thing for me for Eureka. It was nice when it was a passive grind, right? When you had to start paying attention to stuff, it's just like, this is terrible. Or in Pagos, when you had to go up to the second level and you don't have your mount yet, it's just you hate life, you hate everything.
But I also didn't need any of the stuff.
Yeah.
I felt like, though I understand why they lined it up, because they were trying to make the raid gear tier stuff seem more important, which I appreciate. But it also just made that other stuff from Eureka unimportant to me.
Well,
So
what's
I didn't bother
interesting
with it.
is that it's almost like they tried.
Really quick.
Please go.
Whereas in the original way they lined up the relic weapons, if you got your relic weapon done quickly, it was an upgrade for a month before you could get your new raid tier stuff.
It reminds me of the ethereal gear
it.
from
It was
Diadem
worth it
when
to grind it
Diadem
out.
first launched. Everyone's like, oh man, it's 5 item levels higher. We gotta go grind all this new gear.
Yeah, I
all
mean,
changed our minds immediately.
It was
They
all
tried to
glamored
almost-
randomly and
they tried to add in a system to make it relevant, but it's tough because, again, people just didn't make it to Baldesion. And the whole idea that, oh, hey, we're going to give this relic set and this weapon longevity, which has been a big issue. The idea of oh, it's cool that you can customize this weapon and you spend so much time on it so you get a cool appearance and different versions of that appearance. But it's not really relevant because there's always this juggling between raid, rewards, and then, what you get out of this long-term grind. Yeah. And so I like that they put these systems in place to say hey, even if this gear isn't applicable for raiding, let's give some kind of other end game content that it is applicable for. But the problem is that so many people just fell off or, just couldn't quite get into the swing of it, that by the time Baldesion came around, people were furiously trying to play catch up, or, there were these hurdles, like you mentioned, Fusion, with the mount and the fact that you get into a new portion of Eureka and you're like, okay, what's the new system? I have to do what to do what? And it's really barely described to you. And like, I had somebody breaking
All of
down.
that gear.
You're like a teenager that doesn't have his license yet. Can I get a ride, guys, to the next
Oh,
town?
please,
All of that
guys.
gear was for I feel and please disagree with me if you disagree. All that gear I feel was for people who didn't have time or inclination to go and get the raid gear.
Right.
But because Eureka was so expansive and time consuming, it kind of broke itself. Like it was for the people that didn't have the time to do the raids, but they also had to make time to do Eureka. So it kind of
That's a good point, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just go ahead, please.
I want it only for the glamour. I'm like, hey, there's a good looking book maybe, because you're gonna raid it, I'm going to raid. I'm going to have that weapon. I don't need the relic weapon. I'm gonna do it if the story is good, if the content is fun, or if the glamour is good. And like, okay, some of that was there, but what you had to do to get it was just insanity.
There's actually big notches on all of that, because storyline.
Yeah.
An optionable branch that what the hell is canon? Who the hell knows? That was a terrible design choice. And then you have the idea of glamour. Great. How many O-hats have been obtained globally? I'm curious, because those things were impossible to get. They were so stupid. Like maybe 100. Like it was really dumb.
But they're not pretty.
Really dumb.
No,
well,
no, they're
again,
not,
and that brings me to that other point of that Final Fantasy XI player nostalgia, right? Like, oh, you could get the Scorpion harness, you could get your O-hat,
Emperor's
and
hairpin. I was really excited about the Emperor's hairpin,
which is nostalgic-ish, but like.
Well, I mean, I'll say I didn't play 11, and I think a lot of people have used that as a way to say, oh, Eureka's only fun to people who liked 11, so it's bad design, which I've heard a lot. And for me, I never played 11, but I actually really enjoyed Eureka, especially when new portions of it came out on release, right? Because like that first section, we're all grouping up, nobody knows anything, none of the quests are marked, so everybody's sharing information. It was such a big risk going out into the
and we also had
world.
the bear puns to help us through the grind.
And the bear
really
puns.
nice.
The bear
yeah.
puns,
And I loved the rewards for those notorious monsters, because that's something that I've always felt about like the fates in the open world, right? This big boss fate pops up and I run past it, and I've gone past a few where I've tried to actually read about them recently, and I'm like, wow, what a cool little piece of lore. What an interesting monster. But there's literally no reason for me to do it whatsoever, and there's no incentive. So I loved feeling as though, like, if we worked together to pop notorious monsters, there was something from that wasn't just a nostalgia tie, but was also a personal reward that we had accomplished. So, like, I really loved that. It just felt that, as you said, like, as each level turned over, it was like starting from scratch, and you just didn't feel very good about it. Because when I got through the first portion, I was so excited that, hey, I did this long grind, I put all this time in it, but I have all this currency that now, if I want to, I can get like 3 of these rapid fire. I can upgrade, 3 relics at once. Yay! Like, this was the best feeling ever. But as we went on, it got more and more punishing. So I was scraping by with all the light and the thing and all the stuff that you needed. And I was like, can we just make it so that if it's a big time investment, I get a big payoff, or like vice versa? It was frustrating because it just didn't feel good. But now with a lot of the nerfs, it does. And it's actually fun to go in there, but there are people running it, but it's not like as big as when it was released.
We talked about this before too, the way that it's set up with the instances and stuff. It's maybe you find an instance that has people, maybe you don't. It's such a weird system. And it was one of those things where, you would get the Eureka patch and everyone's going in and you've leveled up, but you're basically restarting each zone fresh. Yeah. And it's just
it was feeling
rough.
New expansion, all your stuff is useless. They accelerated that feeling.
Yes.
Everyone says they hate that in MMOs. They accelerated it. They did it.
But the problem was that first you get into an MMOs, you're like, okay, like this could be interesting. Let's see how it goes. And then they come out with Pagos, and Pagos was just crippling. But at the same time, there was that level of tolerance for Pagos, because it's like, well, I've already started the weapon. Yeah. I might as well stick with it, right? And so that's why, like, I thought that, bringing the Isle of All back, I thought that was really interesting. I could care less about the Isle of All now that we know what the next Relic Quest is going to involve, and I'm really curious to see how they integrate this, because the next story for Relic is going to be focused around the Baja Citadel. That's huge. That's huge, 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 huge. So I can't wait to see what they do with this. If it's a zone we go to,
Right.
You know, I mean, because right now that area should be completely obliterated.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what they're gonna. Are we like rebuilding it?
Building it? I don't
That's
know.
my hope. My hope. This is my hope that we get for like the first time a whole new map, and it's not like, you know, like a big, you know, instance progression thing, kind of like Eureka, but it's actually like a map, and there is something dynamic happening on it. Like whether or not right off the bat we have like that kind of setup with some sort of almost big meta event or some big you know, open dungeon or, you know, big thing, kind of like, you know, we saw, or we build up to that on the map by like doing different things and, you know, farming together or, you know, tackling different content or story. Like, I think that could be so fun. And then again, this would make a lot more sense for me if they're taking those dungeons out, to have something that they haven't tried to do before, but that would give us again more like open world stuff we could do together. I mean, it'd even be sort of neat if they still made the Eureka gear somewhat a little bit relevant on that map, where like maybe there's still some elemental stuff that gear will give you like a bonus towards. I don't know. I think they could do a lot of fun things to try and give us a new piece of content that gives longevity to, you know, the relic stuff, but also gives us some more open world interaction, which would be really
Yeah,
neat.
I you know, we talked the idea. We talked about the idea of them, you know, adding a zone or something to them, you know, Garlean Conquest or something. I mean, this might be what we get instead. I think the issue I have, especially, you know, talking about gear that gives you special perks in one zone or something, that's great, and it works for, you know, 3 patches, and then it'll never be useful again because that content will be dead. Like they need to come up with some kind of system, you know, if they want to give you some kind of gear boost or elemental boost or whatever, they need to establish a system, and they need to consistently use it in future content. Because I mean, we have, remember Sanction? No, because nobody gives a crap about Sanction anymore. Like, people barely used it when it came out. And then now you have, you know, the elemental bonus stuff for Eureka, and if you use Eureka, maybe you know about it, maybe you have the gear, but I think at this point, chances are, whatever, you know, stuff you're getting in Eureka, you're not using it to get that gear, you're using it to finish your relic and get the hell out of Eureka. So I think it's I'm all for that idea of that kind of progression, but they got to be really careful about how they do it, and they need to make systems and content that don't feel empty and obsolete as soon as the next expansion hits. There needs to be a reason to keep going in there, and right now we don't have that. So
it's a good point in chat. It would be pretty silly for them to have gone through all the effort to come up with that elemental system in Eureka and not use it again.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Eureka was like a long form experiment for the idea of relics moving forward, because I think they've always grappled with the idea of like, do we always surprise them with something new for relics, or are we just looking for some kind of content, right? But we've already seen them kind of, I think, expanding what we redefine as endgame, and we're seeing now like endgame for crafters and gatherers, and crafters and gatherers are getting their own relics again, which is super exciting. And we're seeing them expand this idea of like, how can we even revisit endgame content in creative ways with Blue Mage. So I'd love to see them expand the definition of endgame outside of just that rating to even something like this, where we could have relic being not just a grind, but a like new form of endgame content you can do that you know, gives you a little bit more variety, whether or not that's like an open map challenge like Baldessian, or it's you know, something else. You know, I think they could do something really cool with that to keep moving forward and expanding on those same systems. It's just that Eureka was so long that like by the time they really got like Baldessian, I think is an incredible gem out of that, but so many players were prohibited from ever reaching it because they just couldn't sink the time. They didn't have the energy. They were really frustrated. They were alone. There weren't enough people, like whatever it was. People didn't get
there
to
wasn't a system to find other players. You had to do
yeah.
I just had a funny realization. Those first relics, the very first thing you had to do was gate grind for Atma. What do we do for our relics in Eureka?
I mean, fake grind.
Fake grinds in a sense,
yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean,
It's
And the
weird,
only-
right? Because it's that balance of what systems are established in the game that are grindable. Because it's got to be grindy. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not just going to be like, do this one new trial and you have the relic weapon. Like, that's not how this works. But it also needs to be fun, and it needs to not be a giant pain in the ass and something that you're just, like, bearing with, right? Like, you need to be enjoying it. It needs to be fun.
Yes.
And honestly,
And Anemos was fine. Anemos was fine in that regard. It was Pagos that was absolutely the worst.
Pagos was terrible.
It
But
was
I
terrible.
think Aldino, I really think you actually hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier with that list that you gave of like things that will keep me in content, right? And like each thing that you said was so accurate. Like, and I think that that's really what separates a grind that is rewarding from not. It's the idea of like some of those components have to be there, whether it is good narrative, good rewards, long-term payoff, like whatever it is, there needs to be something that anchors that. Might be a fun episode idea in the future, like what has been a good or bad grind and sort of analyzing how something can be effective, because it is a conundrum. How do we create long-term content that ties people over, but that doesn't suck, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of this too depends on what 6.0 is looking like, because we've had this talk of like, do we just get some kind of half-assed Garlemald at the end of 5.x? Is 6.x Garlemald?
Yeah.
Like, totally just spitballing, like we could reconstruct the Citadel, and then that turns into a conquest map, and that still is a conquest map going forward in 6.x, or you know, who knows. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm excited for it, but
there are two things that I want. One, content that I don't feel like I have to watch Netflix to enjoy.
Yes.
I did watch a lot of movies.
Everyone was like, "Oh, it's fine. Just watch Netflix doing it." Why am I playing this game then? Then I could just go watch Netflix and chill. Like, what? Why am I doing this? And two, if you don't give us like some cool horizontal progression stuff, make the relic useful by giving us some cool cosmetic things, like make my Phoenix blue when I have this, make the machinist robot different when I use it, make my Boonshin look different, make my Frey have
that's
fire.
a really cool idea.
Then you have that prestige of I've got the relic, and yeah, it was a better weapon, but I already rated, but whatever. But it made my things different going forward, and that's something that I can glamour the weapon. And then
I love that idea, but I also know it'll never happen since we're still waiting on Eggy glamours.
No, it'll never happen. It's like something that's tiny. It doesn't give anyone any power.
As long as they can give us a solid canonical story without forks, I'll be happy, especially dealing with the Citadel. Like, I'm really excited to hear more about the Citadel. There will be job adjustments in patch 5.2. We don't know what they are, but there will be job adjustments in patch 5.2.
Yeah, they said something about Red Mage.
Little mention of Red Mage in there.
Yeah, but not
there was a quick method. Yeah, nothing official. Obviously, we'll still have part 2 for the 5.2 live letter at some point here, probably next month.
Well, aside, how are you guys feeling about your current job adjustments?
I'm feeling good. I don't really have any complaints between Dragoon and Machinist right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling good with mine too, honestly.
Yeah, I don't. Of course, I love that it's much more fun to play. It does a lot of damage. It is a little too high. It still is a little.
Don't say it. Don't tell them.
My biggest nitpick is that it feels like my robot doesn't do a lot of damage because of the arrival animation. I know it shows up and then it does the dash for extra damage, but it feels like it doesn't. Yeah, it feels weird. That's it. I mean,
when Phoenix is out, it's like, boom, one attack, it hurts. Boom, another attack, it hurts more, and it's AOE, and you just go back and forth, and then you do the death flare. It feels good. When I'm on Machinist, I'm like, did I summon my oh, the robot's over there. Cool.
It's getting here. It had to get it had to call a lift.
The other day, we were farming Suzaku, and we kept accidentally having a couple of the little birds re-raised because you kill stuff so quickly now. You accidentally kill it in the fire. But he would bring out Phoenix when this was happening. So we're like, get the last one.
Just to mess with you.
I can't target it. Something's glitching out.
I was trying to time that for the first few times because I was
freaking got us, man.
I do not like farming dogs, but if the raid group wants to do it, I'll do it. and I don't complain,
Such a trooper.
and I still won't. But
The true champion of Final
I
Fantasy
gotta do
14.
something. So it's like, oh man, I could totally prank them with Phoenix. So yeah, I did.
He did. And he got us.
Yeah.
I mean, there's there's little stupid things you can do with a pet
Yeah.
job, right? It's like
Yeah.
when I if I do Eden Leviathan
Oh.
on Machinist, I try and time it so he runs out and he's just like floating. When the floor drops, it's just like whatever. It's a robot. He
Yeah.
can do whatever he
Put
wants.
Put Frey in the middle so that when Leviathan gets rid of the middle, it's like, who's that? Oh.
All the healers are like,
Yep. Gives me a heart attack every time we're in a platform fall away fight, and I'm like, oh my god, get over here, get over. I try to like rescue, and there's
Right,
just,
yeah.
it's just Frey, and I'm like, okay, all right,
Whatever.
not
That
fine.
third fight in the 24-man too. So many times Frey is in one of those little puddles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People don't go and stand in the last puddle. Guys, Frey's
Yeah.
not a real person.
Yeah, I mean, I feel overall that the classes, I mean, we've talked about this before, that
Mhm.
there seems to be like any gaps between them is getting narrower and narrower. And I think that they
Sure.
really are doing a nice job fine tuning them. Astrologian could probably still use a little bit of love with its MP. And again, I still do miss the old card system, but it's not
Mhm.
like it's unplayable. And I think some of its recent
Yeah.
buffs really helped it. And I felt like that with most of the classes, that they've really been conscientiously just like fine tuning them to the point where I'm excited because I think that's going to really free us up and free them up for design for future jobs or
Yeah,
what they want to
yeah.
do moving forward. So.
Especially, I think, in regards to healers. I mean, because that was the big thing, right, with Shadowbringers. It's like we get a tank, but not a healer. Like what?
What?
And they're like
I
balance
died.
and stuff. And so I think
died.
especially with healers, I think we'll see a lot of changes that are
Yeah.
minor, but
Mhm.
big for like job identity.
Sure.
I think we'll,
Something.
as the expansion goes on, and then once 6.x hits, we'll be like, hey, here's
Yeah.
your new healer, whatever it is, and everything will be fine,
Yeah.
and we'll have a new healer, and it'll be great.
Yeah. Look,
I
just
think
go
people are worried
mine other
about
MMOs.
that.
Mine all of them. There are hot classes, there are shield classes, there are pure throughput classes that have better class fantasy than these. Go mine them for ideas. Come back and steal
Mhm.
them. It's fine. It's
Well,
okay.
and
Right back.
you gotta wonder too how much of that is also an issue of the role system, right, and
Sure.
the duty system, because for a while it's ranged DPS. Yes, it's a DPS, but it's support.
Mhm.
But no, it's ranged DPS, which is just DPS. It like it's
Mhm.
broken down several times. It's just DPS, and
Yeah.
they're never gonna change that. They would need to
No.
overhaul so many things if they added like a support role. It would. You can't do it at this point.
Yeah.
And so I think they're just gonna have to focus. Yeah, you'll have the raw heals, you'll have your shield heals, and that's the kind of stuff I think we'll have going
Mhm.
forward. And it's the same thing like they did with all the range stuff. It's okay. Bard is slightly more supporty now, and then you have your dancer, which is all the way supporty, and then you have your machinist, which is just like, yo, I got a gun, I don't care about supporting you. I got a robot, I'm just gonna wreck stuff.
Yeah.
I'll support you by killing our enemies. How does that
Yes,
sound?
yeah,
All right.
yeah. And so I think as the patch goes on, it's one of those things where obviously they need to get to probably like the 0.3 patch is where they're going to start to think, okay, what are the next jobs?
Leading in.
If they're not already, I mean, they could be
Oh,
already,
yeah.
but that's when they're going to have to start saying, okay, if we want to do a healer, what has to be different about it? What has to be different about the ones that we
We're just
already
gonna
have?
get one job next time, and it's gonna be healer, and they're gonna spend all of their time on the healer.
on that healer.
That's it.
I mean, there's other paradigms. There's the hurt to heal. There's the
Yeah.
like heal one
Mhm.
person to heal multiple. I mean, there's so many other paradigms that you can.
There's the
base a
attack to
class on.
heal.
Yeah,
There's,
yeah,
I mean, there's so many.
It'd be cool.
Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could do a ton of stuff. We've even heard about like debuff. I mean,
Yeah.
buffing is sort of like, I guess, Astrologian's thing,
Mhm.
but with the fact that they've sort of changed it so that really it's more like a direct damage up.
Mhm.
If they narrowed down with some of the changes this expansion, exactly what they would want to be buffed moving forward, or like what would be relevant. I mean, we could see somebody who has some kind of application to the party. I was even thinking recently with Bard, the fact that, I mean, they've got the like speed boost ability, which could be super useful if, you were using that to maneuver in
Yeah.
certain fights, if it was applicable,
Be nice.
but you can't in combat. So, I mean, there are some things they could do with that, but it is tricky because the community tends to love that damage
Yeah,
buff.
right.
But There are definitely
I think
ways
they
to
should just
go.
introduce like a drunken chemist class, and
Yeah.
and you heal with attacks. You just take vials of potions and you just smash them over your party members' heads. Gets a higher chance for crit. Maybe he grabs the wrong one, and you also get a little damage boost.
If they
Do
were to
it like
give
the
like
dice
a
for Corsair.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Corsair was fun.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
fun. Like I even liked playing it.
It was an interesting
don't
class. Yeah,
typically
I
like
dabbled.
support.
I never like mained it, but I found myself going back and dabbling with it quite a bit.
Yeah. You bring me an 11 red mage that's useful, like a debuff class.
So
that's useful
one
here.
that casts haste and only haste, and that's it.
Yeah,
and if you don't
only
have haste, you can't get a party. Just
Well, like,
haste.
make
You're a
mean-
haste
debuffs
mage.
useful and make them prevent damage. Then that's a cool healer too. You know? Like,
yeah. There's
Yeah.
a ton of stuff.
Preventative.
It's-
I mean, it's
Yeah.
another take on like shield almost, right?
yeah.
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 That'd be interesting. I mean, it's tough because they did say with Shadowbringers, we want synergies
Mhm.
to kind of vanish, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because I think the biggest class that is fun as far as synergies go is like support or stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in my mind, I'm immediately going, oh, well, we took out some of that time, dilation and extension
Man.
from Astro. Like, what if you had a support that their whole thing was that they could extend buffs or they could
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
these different things. But then again, you're going to run into that, like, oh, the synergy is so good that likely
Mhm.
people are going to just use that. So
It's so funny. Every time I think about that, all I can think about is sitting there at the media tour, and they're like, "We're gonna try and remove synergies, and we're gonna, make it so like you can party with, whatever." But also, dancer is the only support job
Yeah.
right now, and we're gonna emphasize
Oh.
that. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what?" Like
Yeah.
on the same slide, you're just like, "Did you look at this?" Like,
I wanted one more word in there. We're getting rid of exclusive synergy, the piercing debuff,
yeah,
the
it was
blunt
just
debuff.
like,
Give us
oh,
more
dear.
synergy, but applicable to more
That
different
bums me
classes.
out.
Yeah,
Because
I
we
don't
finally have a Dragoon this time around, and I'm
Yeah.
piercing is gone.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Oh yeah,
That
there's a lot
was
more.
that was a long discussion for one bullet point that had zero information underneath it.
Look, there's a lot to be said.
Yeah.
PvP updates, PvP actions will be adjusted. Please look forward to it.
Please look forward.
Lots of info coming out for the Ishgardian Restoration update. The biggest part is going to be changes to Diadem. They are redesigning it as content for gatherers.
Which is
After
basically what it
reaching-
is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. After reaching level 10, with any Disciple of Land, players can enter from the Firmament, and Cerulean tanks will no longer be required. You can gather
Cool.
items to be used in the restoration of Ishgard. You can earn Skybuilder scripts. The idea is you gather while moving from island to island, because it's the same diadem. They didn't change anything with the layout. You're just going around and gathering. You won't have to worry about being attacked by enemies. And so, in addition to gathering non-collectible items for reconstructing the area, will also be useful for gaining experience at nearly any level. So 10 plus, you can level up in Diadem, which is cool. As you continue to gather in the Diadem, you'll charge a gauge for your Ethereomatic Augur. And then you can use that on creatures to
Say that
obtain
5 times
additional
fast.
items. The little PowerPoint example they gave was like exploding a golem to get like rocks or something.
I am so hyped for this.
I'm excited to see what it is.
Oh yeah?
Weirdly, I love all of these changes because I want to level all my gatherers, but I just don't want to have to go everywhere and do all the things. Like I want to do it
Do
in
like
Diadem.
a few leave quests and the Crystarium things, and you'll be done in like a couple hours. Though it's
I
so easy to level now.
I just have a problem with grindy, repetitive watch Netflix content. Like I don't want to do it. Like I just don't want to do
That's
it.
fair.
I know
Okay.
it's easy. I just don't want to do it.
Okay.
I want to do
Well,
something.
I
that's
just
engaging.
I didn't know if you got the
I
memo
know.
or not. I just
Oh,
wanted to make
yeah, I know.
sure.
I know. It's a weird thing. I know.
I'll get you another
It's
copy of
memo.
that memo. We'll...
Yeah.
Well, again, though, this is an important point, and the fact that especially in a game where we have the ability to have all classes on one character and to be a crafter and gatherer on one character, the idea of just time investment for time investment's sake. Like sometimes I love that kind of stuff. If I'm hanging with people and I want to talk, or it's great to have something that you don't have to exert an insane amount of just brain power over, especially if you're streaming or something too, because then you can talk with people and just kind of have
I
fun.
was gonna say,
and talk
yeah,
with
that's
them.
Phineas makes a great point in chat, doing grindy, repetitive stuff while watching Twitch right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like-
mean,
I know.
It's
I'm not
fun.
saying I'm the usual. I know it's
No.
weird. I just
Yeah.
don't like it.
But I agree with you because for me, I find that even if I can get into the rhythm of those things, sometimes what will keep me from ever doing it is the knowledge that that is what I will be committing to.
Right.
And I've found so many people like that. I've had people even say to me recently, like, I left the game because I got so overwhelmed leveling all my classes, and then I got into crafting and gathering, and it was so slow. I was like, ugh. And they're like, and I don't want to come back unless it's easier. And then I can say to them, but it is now.
It is.
Like, just go do like a handful of these leaves, and you can get into it. You can participate in Ishgard right away. Yeah, and I think this was all really smart. They did such a clever thing here, saying this first step of Ishgard is going to just get people crafting and gathering. It's going to teach new people. It's just going to get them in there. It's going to get you leveled. And then you can engage in the larger scale, picture for all of this. And for the first time, I've been making progress on it. And I think that's not a small thing, especially when you have this system that I think really needed some love because it is one of the features of the game,
Right.
I ended up dumping a lot of money into my armorer after the last patch just to get stuff. I wanted to do Ishgard stuff. Like, I love Ishgard. I love everything about Ishgard. And so I'm like, all right, let's make this push. Let's get this thing hit to 80. Let's get it geared. Let's get to that point where I can gather stuff and hit a macro and get me some scripts. But it's nice because it obviously for the first part, it's for the gather stuff. It's okay if you already have gathers at 80, go around and get the stuff, and that's fine. Like, you want to be able to reward the people that have that stuff at that cap. But now it's like, all right, we need to get more people into it. So how do we do that? We let people like level 10 plus start to get these items, which is making me wonder like that the market price on some of the stuff is gonna plummet.
Oh yes.
I do appreciate though. As somebody that raised quite a few eyebrows at gathering like Sky Builder's ores from like the bottom of the Ruby Sea, I'm like, that's weird that I would find sky materials down here, but okay. At least it'll make a little more sense finding it in a floating island. But I'm excited to see where it goes. And we got more stuff here too.
They're building in the sky doesn't mean their materials have to come from the sky.
I mean, no, but
It's
like,
just an island
why
that
would?
crashed.
But like, why would you like? Who's discovering ore at the bottom of the sea and being like, this is Sky Builder's ore?
Maybe they just ran out of the actual stuff and they're like, this is like it. It's close enough. Let's just call it this. It's fine.
This is good enough Sky Builder's ore.
Game mechanic.
Might as well be Sky Builder's ore.
Yeah.
It's close enough. Sky Builder's ore. We're also gonna get new expert recipes as well, with new collectible items that'll be added. Expert recipes can be used to earn greater rewards, and they will have different statuses other than poor, good, and excellent. And utilizing these new statuses will be the key to increasing item quality. So it's sounding almost like if you want to keep doing your macro crafting, go for it. But you get a way better reward if you actually just pay attention and play whatever little mini game they're wanting you to do with crafting.
I love it. More engaging content. Give it to me.
and you can still, if you don't want to do that, if you're like me and you know enough to be able to get your stuff unlocked and to get a macro set up and do it, you can still do it that way. It may not be optimal, but you can still participate in whatever. And that's cool. And then this is something we talked about too, where people were like, "What?" So we're getting the Kupo of Fortune, which is like Wheel of Fortune, but not at all. Which it's a weird name. I don't get where the name come from. These are they look like the scratch off tickets. So you'll get these after contributing a certain number of items, and then the tickets can be used to redeem various rewards. So it's interesting because when this idea was first proposed, I remember them specifically saying, like, if you're not a crafter, if you're not a gatherer, you can still like buy a lotto ticket or something. That's not what this is, because you have to contribute stuff in order to get them. Right. Maybe that's what this changed into. Maybe they're still planning on the other thing in a few more patches.
What do you contribute though? Because you could possibly
items.
buy the things and turn them in.
I mean,
That's true.
That's absolutely true. But it That feels weird too. I don't know.
I mean,
You know, I'm
just,
thinking of like leveling a crafter via like Grand Company turn-ins of stuff you buy. Like it's
yeah.
all right.
I
It's kind of weird, but sure.
I mean, Ishgard's
can
like,
do
hey,
that,
we
though.
need help.
Yeah,
Here's
no.
the thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the slide says Kupo of Fortune, but it's not in the Japanese, and it's not at the bottom of the ticket. So maybe that's just a mistranslation because it just says Kupo Fortune in Japanese and on the little ticket on this little slide that we see. So maybe they just.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
localization.
Yeah.
There's also going to be, we've heard a little bit about this, that it was going to exist, the ranking system. So this will be to commend people who contribute greatly to the reconstruction effort. There will be separate rankings for each crafting and gathering class. So it's not just one big crafter list. It's, the armorer list, the blacksmith list. So that's nice. You'll be able to earn points for each class when you contribute specific items. And the rankings will be tabulated during a 10-day period after the update is released. The results for each world will be on the lodestone, kind of like how we have rankings for, Heaven on High and all that kind of stuff. For the top ranked crafters and gatherers, they will get special titles. And then other achievements and rewards will be granted based on player contributions. They also are going to be making some adjustments to crafting and gathering updates. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh no, they just did this. What are they doing? There will be crafting system updates. Actions will be adjusted. They are adding a skill simulator, which will let you estimate the effects of your next action. And then it'll be easier to desynth stacked items, and there will be the removal of the party requirement for company crafting.
Finally.
Which
Finally.
That's so nice.
Taking it off.
it's nice, but at the same time, it's annoying because this is like, it's that idea of like, I'm a one-man free company and I have a house and now I can craft whatever the hell I want. Like it's,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that from that point of
The
view.
requirement wasn't the way to do it though. Like that.
Yeah.
Because you could just get friends to come in and do it.
Well, you can get
'Cause
anybody to
that's what
come
I've
and
been-
do it.
Yeah, that's just what I've been doing. Like people are like, I need the craft. Okay, I'll show up. Like fine, but
I party finder it. I'll give you 20K if you show up at my house for like 10 minutes and just sit there on a level 1 weaver.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because I've seen in a lot of other games recently
Mm-hmm.
the idea of like a guild hall or your FC house in Final Fantasy actually having some benefit to being a group, right? And as of right now, the main benefit is that you can get FC buffs, but for anybody who doesn't know, you can also just go to your grand company and buy similar buffs just from the vendor there for your own, usage. If you're not in a free company, they just don't stack, so you still aren't like missing out a whole bunch. And then of course we have things like the crafting stations in the FCs. But again, you get a bit of a boost, but you can kind of get that other ways
Well,
too.
and no one's going to be using those anymore because those are only up to level 50, weren't they? The
Yeah.
furniture
Yeah.
items? Yeah, so
Yeah.
those are long
So-
past relevant.
It's like I'm glad that they are making some of this more accessible.
Mhm.
But, we kind of talked about this with the idea of fellowships and all these different things. The idea that I really think that FCs need an overhaul. Like, we need to figure out exactly what the purpose of these is. Do we combine them with a fellowship so that we have the boards and we have the stuff and it's cross-world now and like update it to sort of match the way the game has evolved? Do we give new content where, there's some sort of new group activity you can do as FCs? Do we create Guild Wars 2, there's like guild missions that you can do where there's a special vendor where you can get, a bunch of cool stuff and even some stuff that's like raid equivalent
Well, we
to
have
help get you set up.
kind of
Yeah.
that with like the airships and submarines, and then sometimes they bring back a token that you can exchange for like a hat or a mount that everybody has that wants it at
Yeah,
this point.
but it's
Like-
not really like an active group endeavor, if that makes sense. It's
you're
not something
building
that you
something,
can.
though.
there's no reason to have that, and I think that's part of what bugs me so much about taking out that party requirement. It's like this is one of the few things in this kind of content that's like, hey, get together with your people and do stuff. And now it's like, oh, but
But
like
that's the
that's a
annoying
hassle for
part.
people because
Like,
people don't have friends
you're
and they're in
building
one person free companies, so they could
Yeah.
buy a house. Like,
If you're building something like an airship or a submarine part,
Yeah.
and you're with a free company who is active and you like each other, et cetera, you're going to be like, hey guys, can I get help gathering this stuff?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
still a group activity. You just don't have to wait for everybody to be there to continue the next part.
It's
Yeah.
true. And I think that like in this
Yeah.
case, it's a good change, right? For this type of content, it is kind of a hassle to have to deal with it. But I think it does open up this question of like Final Fantasy is a very social game. And we've seen a lot of additions for things like RP and facilitating RP and housing and free companies and things like that. But are we going to see an evolution of the idea of what you can do as a free company to, you know, continue incentivizing the idea of being a group together in something? And I mean, of course, you can just do that on your own. Like, we're just going to do
Right.
dog farms, or we're going to have our group that does events. But I do love in games when there's some reason, or there's, you know, even gosh, like in one of the guild halls I'm in, you can have like a 1v1 PvP arena. In another one, there's like a little maze
Sure.
mini game that you can do, and there's leaderboards for your FC, and there's like, you know, it's really fun.
Mhm.
And I love the idea of having stuff like that for a group that kind of, you know, gives even more weight to like, we are a free company, and this is why you'd want to be a part of it. Like, I think that's fun.
You know,
14
like,
definitely misses the mark.
Oh yeah.
For stuff like that, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even if like the party requirement is stupid, but if you had to like go in there and click a thing, I would be like, yeah, don't remove it. Okay. Like, but the party requirement is just so stupid
Yeah.
because you go in there. and
Yeah.
you do nothing. Once again, you do nothing. I don't want to do nothing. Like, why am I playing a game to do nothing? Why?
I mean, I
Why
pay
am I
monthly
subscribing to do
subscriptions to do nothing. I don't.
Right. I can't.
Like it can be fun. I'm just curious if they'll keep expanding that. And the same goes, we just talked like a second ago about the ranking system, thinking about, you know, ranking boards and things like that. They mentioned here the idea class rankings will be tabulated during a 10-day period after the update is released. And I was curious with that, with this kind of Ishgardian stuff, once we finish the restoration, is there still going to be an ongoing like leaderboard? Is there going to be some kind of final activity
That's
that you
the
can
thing.
still,
I mean,
you know?
that's, going back to, the idea of like Boja Citadel reconstruction. Great, it's done. Now what?
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe
and
those
it's
seasons.
it's one of those things where like I get it, and it makes sense, right? Like Dome and Enclave, we finished building the Dome and Enclave. Now what? It's there, and you can like buy paper windows. Like, it's a weird thing where it's great to have that kind of content. It's cool, especially like construction wise, to see that stuff be built up. But it gets to a point where then you don't experience it anymore, and no one else can come in and experience it.
Yeah.
And so you got to wonder what.
I mean, for the Dome and Enclave, you absolutely can still experience it.
Oh yeah.
It is, well, that's per person, but I mean, you look at Ishgard reconstruction specifically. At some point, that's going to be a housing ward, and that's not going to be a thing like at all anymore.
I imagine they'll still have the stands there for you to turn stuff in, though.
My
Like, it
guess
won't
is
make
that-
sense because everything will be built, but it'll still be there.
But that would be really strange to have in the middle of a housing district.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
it does
you-
create
if
this
you look at
conundrum.
If you look at it, it's very possible it's going to be separate. Like,
It could be.
we're in an area that is not the housing ward.
Yeah, I could see it maybe opening up some new portion of the
Or maybe
Ishgard
they'll
map,
leave it in
or
there. Who knows?
I
don't know.
In all
it's
honesty,
weird.
if they could keep it going, if they would stop being so stupid about housing, let me buy a small plot in the firmament. Let me upgrade it to a large plot. Let me sink hours and hours into crafting and submitting crap to get a big house. But no, because they insist on having neighborhoods, they insist on having different plot sizes. They don't want to take money super easily out of the economy.
I mean,
it's like their social stuff. They're missing the mark. Like, I don't need a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Make an instance house. I'm fine with that.
It is kind of arduous, and I almost wish, like, talking about FCs, right, and the things that could be unique for them.
Yeah.
How cool would it be if you were in an FC to have your own, like, scalable instanced housing? So that way, like, the housing wards could be open for people who wanted to independently buy. But then FCs, I don't know if there'd be some sort of minimum requirement or activity. I don't know. But I mean, obviously that would have its own problems. But the idea that maybe as a group, you could have like a free company space that you could upgrade to different sizes, and maybe you could invest time into like opening up a workshop together, or opening up this thing together, or there would be like different branches of it, different scales of it that you could all sort of work on, that would then open up new sort of social features for you within that FC. Like, that would be super cool. In relation to Ishgard, I mean, we'll just have to see. I'm sure that at the end of it, they'll do something for that turning point to be like, this will help with the greater restoration, but it'll be
brew.
kind of vague or
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
They're like,
like
now that we've done building houses for people who don't live here, we can work on building houses for the people who have lived here for years
Right.
and need them.
yeah, it would
I
be
just-
nice to see that continue,
Mhm.
but it's really unfortunate for people who aren't in it right now,
Right.
you know? And with that
Mhm.
leaderboard, I was a little bit worried because I was like, wait, does this mean that if I haven't been going ham on Ishgard, like, I would miss out on the possibility of getting like a special title or something and never, ever, ever be able to like fight for that? Like,
Yeah.
this
think
doesn't
maybe.
seem like very good content.
For
and-
the titles,
That is
Yeah.
a mistake.
maybe
What I,
for
what I
leaderboard
want
stuff.
to see is seasons. You have this season, you're the leaderboard champion, you get the title. Next season, you are,
Mm.
you aren't, whatever. People get the title. The more number one titles you get, the better your title gets, or something. Like, yeah, keep doing it if you want to do it to get the best title. Be number one for this many 10-week periods or 10-day periods.
Mhm.
And then after that, they just keep it going. You want to achieve that? It's kind of like the fishing event and WoW. Like, people just do it to get an achievement, basically, but it's still the same. You
Yeah.
have to win it to get the thing, and people are still doing it because you want the achievement or you want the title. Just make it seasonal.
Well, here's the
People-
other point too. Like, besides achievements that give you
Mhm.
stuff, like
Yeah.
achievement points aren't a valuable currency in this game, like at
no,
all.
No.
which stinks.
Yeah.
There's it's like, oh, I got an achievement, great. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you can cash them in now for stuff. Like, you know, the like they added the kind of little shop from the NPC,
Mhm.
but like it doesn't matter. Like, nothing costs any kind of like
Right.
worthwhile amount of points to get.
Which, yeah, I think it's just like you get, Sins of the Savage Father 3 or something. You have, I
Yeah,
was
which is
on the
is
leaderboard
fine
3
because that
times,
way you
you know,
can get
like-
everything. But then
Right.
also, what's the point at the same time? It's, I don't know.
Well, no, I mean,
that's
for
weird.
specifically for this leaderboard, you would have how many times you've been number one, and that makes the title
Yeah.
better. Like, then there you go. Just keep doing it every 10 days. Then everyone
Yeah.
can get the title. You might not get the best title because you weren't committed the whole time, but you have a title.
Mm.
I don't know. You were on the leaderboard.
Yeah, it would be nice to see it. I feel like if you're adding a leaderboard,
Hmm.
to me that indicates some sort of semi-competitive cycle
Right.
where yes, it
Yeah.
continues, right? And the
Mhm.
idea is that everybody will look at that and at some point be like, I want to see myself on that leaderboard. And to have it just be something where it's not really a leaderboard, but it's just like almost an awards, like
Yeah.
for this period of content, we have awards going out to the people who,
Mhm.
I think it's just that it's that division for me. Like if it was just
Mhm.
awards, so you got special titles for being the top and you got to see where you were at the
Yeah.
the finish of
Mhm.
Ishgard
Yeah.
versus a leaderboard, which kind of indicates to me that it will somehow be an ongoing.
That was
like-
the point I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be on the lodestone, I mean, think about what else is on the lodestone. You have your feast leaderboards, you have your heaven on high, you
Mhm.
have your all your deep dungeon stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's that kind of thing. So it'll be ongoing.
Yeah. Gotta
Um,
be.
But
We'll
yeah,
just see
I mean,
how. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
It'd be great.
telling us when they were first announcing this that there would be the leaderboard coming up
Mhm.
after everything started, and that it would start from there. So if you haven't been going ham on Ishgard as of yet, it doesn't matter.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Doesn't matter right now.
Take this time to get your stuff leveled up. And,
Mhm.
Go
Get ready
gather
for
some
it.
stuff. Get ready. Yeah.
Yeah.
Prepare
and I mean,
yourselves.
and you probably have even more time because there's probably a decent chance that this is going to drop during like 5.25 or
Yeah.
a mid patch. So
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
I'm excited
It's all
because it's
good.
another world first race, kind of, in a way.
I mean, that's
World
the
first,
other thing
that's
too
cool.
is especially with this kind of content is the longevity aspect, right? Because you
Mhm.
look at the first patch, like when they add this stuff, like this stuff was done in a few days. Like
Yeah.
that was it. Lots of servers zerged it, and if they didn't, other people came and zerged it for them.
Yeah.
Like it's
For like 12 hours.
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things. It's like if you don't get in there and see it, you never will. And so
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll have to see. I mean, obviously, like it's cool content. Like I think it's really cool
Yeah.
to see an area
Oh,
build up like
no.
that. But
Yeah.
also, like if I'm coming in, like I'll never see like Revenant's Toll be like the 3 tents or something that they used to be, right? Like,
But what about
so-
fishing though?
Yeah, fishing. Let's get to fishing.
So this is they're really
Yeah.
going crazy with the gathering stuff in this patch. So and I mean presumably you would be able to like fish in Diadem too, right?
Yeah, I would guess
So
sky fishing.
Probably,
sky,
yeah.
sky fishing at least, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird, impossible thing.
Bladders, man. Things can
Air
just
bladder.
fly with bladders.
I forgot.
I never forget that. It's so weird. So the required level for the following fisher actions will be lowered for patience, precision hook set, and powerful hook set. Fish tugging animations will be made easier to distinguish, and an all-purpose lure will be added, which is awesome. As somebody that
Been
doesn't
waiting
fish a
for
lot,
that.
but when I do,
It's-
I always have to find the right kind of bait that I need.
Sure.
I like that. That's very nice. Thank you.
I remember them
Um,
announcing this, months ago, and
Yeah.
when this patch dropped, being like, "Where is this sucker?
Yeah. How do I get it?
Why don't I have this yet?"
Well, and I think this is also partly a response to like, can we get like a tackle box? No, but we'll
Yeah.
give you an all-purpose lure. Now please be
Yeah,
quiet
there
and
you
stop
go.
asking. us
Good
for this.
enough, thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
If that's not enough for all you fishers out there, they're also adding ocean fishing, which will
Oh.
be exclusive content for fishers, which is
So cool.
okay. Why not? You'll be able to board a ship at specified times to enjoy fishing on the high seas. Meeting certain conditions while aboard will grant all passengers the chance of a big haul. Okay,
So you're gonna get boarded?
I'm thinking. It was
Welcome
funny
to
because
Mara?
yes, you're right.
The
Like
Kraken.
play the Buccaneers thing. You have the Pirates board. And,
Mhm.
totally was the first thing that came to my mind.
I just thought
yeah.
about fishing up the Kraken.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then-
That's your
I-
big
I-
goal, man.
I
Yeah.
will never forget when the Ottergon expansion for Final Fantasy XI, and I was on the second boat out to the new zone, and somebody fished up an NM and called for help on it,
Mhm.
and somebody just shouted, "Don't do that! We need to find out what it drops."
Wow.
It was wild times back then, let me tell you.
Mhm.
So yeah, ocean fishing. There you go.
I never saw this coming. Did anybody
Oh, no.
else expect it?
No,
No.
absolutely
Definitely
not. I figured with Diadem it'd be okay,
Cool.
sure, fine, whatever. But they're like, hey, we're gonna let you fish on a boat.
I mean, they probably just dug down into the recesses of 1.0 and were like, "Remember that ferry? All right, okay, we're good."
I remember Hamlet Square. If you're watching, I remember Hamlet
Yoshi-P
not
somewhere is just
crappy
screaming.
Ishgardian Restoration.
Nightmare.
I mean,
Nightmare.
It's great.
Oh, we asked him about that before about Hamlet, and he's like, I understand the sentiment,
I
but
know.
no.
Yeah.
Like, it's great to see because there were a lot of questions coming out of Ishgard, right? It's one of those things where, and same thing with some of the deploy here with the New Game Plus.
Mhm.
We're getting this new big feature, and it comes in, and a whole bunch of people that haven't been keeping up with the news are massively confused because they're like, I
Yeah.
went to start New Game Plus. Why can't I do it from the beginning? What? They go into Ishgard and they're like, I'm so excited because crafting and gathering end game. Why? What? I can't. Are you kidding? I can't bring my gatherer in? And so, like, it's one of those things where, I mean, one, keep up with the news because it's really important that you do and you
Yes.
actually know what's happening
Yes.
when, because it's not really Square Enix's fault when they really communicate it well. But
Mhm.
on the other side, it is sort of weird to have these things like deploy in stages because it is kind of confusing for the players. So when we knew, like, oh, hey, crafting's the only thing in Ishgard, gathering's coming with Diadem, but all these people were then going, what about fishers? Because they're the weird one and they don't really,
Yeah.
they're kind of their own thing. So to like add something in for fishers, I think is really nice.
We'll give you a boat.
Yeah, have a boat, and that way you also
enjoy
get
the boat.
People have been asking for that for a long time
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Like people have
Yeah.
honestly been asking for that.
And I feel like they actually, this was so surprising to me, I feel like they have some of those assets already, because I had never done the Sahagin Beast Tribe quests, and then I just recently went back to do them all because I wanted the story and all that stuff. And there are a lot of instances where you actually go talk to one of the guys, and he's like, you want to go on a boat? And then you go on the boat, and there's like enemies
I mean,
or
I
something
wasn't
happens
joking.
on there.
They probably very much likely reached into the recesses of 1.0 because there was a ferry
I-
ride and you sat there the
I
whole time
have-
on the ferry.
I have a request. If they're gonna do this, I want them to bring in the sea serpent.
I think
Not
they should do something
Leviathan,
like that. Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
Leviathan, because it wasn't
Ah.
Leviathan. I want them. You're fishing, all of a sudden that thing just shows up, and you do something, and I want it to be involved somehow. I don't know how, but I think it needs to
Yeah.
be there.
Sure.
It's sort of odd to make this, like, part of me almost wishes that rather than having all these little independent things, we were getting all of these things as like content for a bunch of different groups, if that makes sense. Like, I think it
Sure.
will be easiest to just go out as a fisher, but like, how cool would it be if ship voyages had been added, and as a
Yeah.
part of that, like, you could form a party, you could have a fisher, you could have a DPS or a tank or something, and then you go in and maybe pirates board the ship,
And then you bring in the
and you
crafters to fill up the holes, and you have Hamlet on a boat.
see, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Michelle
that
is
would be
like,
good.
"No."
I would be so into that, and then you could have something like a notorious monster
It would
spawn,
be cool.
and then you could like fight it, and maybe there could be
Hamlet
like
on a boat.
special. Look,
Mhm.
I'm just saying, I think that would be
I
super
am.
fun.
That is
And if they're
really
gonna
cool.
Going
spend the
fast.
time and resources, why not make it something? Like, everybody jokes all the time about raids, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take that Weaver in and we're gonna, one shot, E4S. Like, it'd be kind of fun to have something that at some point, and maybe they'll develop it into this, like, brings everybody together to tackle some kind of endeavor like that. Like, that'd be really neat, I honestly think.
That was a good fish pun tackle.
Oh boy,
Wah, wah.
I can't even be mad at that. All right,
That's what
so
I'm hoping.
that's a lot of stuff for fishers. I'm curious to see how
Yeah.
that turns out. It definitely wasn't anything we saw coming, but it's something
No.
that people have been wanting. So cool. Sky Steel tools. These are going to be primary tools that'll be upgraded over the course of multiple patches. So these are your crafter gatherer relics, as they were. As it was, it'll start with a quest in the firmament, and then you'll craft and gather specific items to enhance those tools.
I hope they're not annoying like the first ones were.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can remember when they talked about the idea of getting tools from Ishgard Reconstruction. They talked about like maybe they'll be super crazy and glowy, like the ultimate fight stuff.
Yeah.
Whether that will actually happen or not, we'll see. Maybe stages,
Yeah.
Just have a
Why
giant glowing pickaxe. Sure, why not?
Sword of Glow.
See, that seems like it'll be hard though if you're working for the Keykerns and you're trying to pickpocket people, and they'll see you coming a mile away if you have the
Yeah.
giant glowing pickaxe that you hit them with.
Did I get what I was looking for? I can't tell. It's too bright.
Yeah, I can't see anything. Materia system changes. This was interesting.
Mhm.
So equipment will no longer be lost when creating materia. Crafter class requirements for affixing materia will be removed, and any crafter can affix materia provided they meet the level requirement.
Makes sense to me.
Those are pretty big materia related changes.
I didn't even realize that was still a thing because
But you-
of having all my crafters capped out.
Oh
and-
sure, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I knew
Huh.
it was a thing. Don't you worry.
I still remember in 1.0 the first holiday event we had, the first like Christmassy event, and you needed to find Dormouse fur in order to repair the Santa clothes, and I'm like, where do you even find a Dormouse in this game? Like, what?
That's great.
What is
These were wild times.
what
back
is
then.
equipment will no longer be lost when creating materia mean?
I think the spirit bond is just
Spirit
a bar,
bond.
and then you make materia, and then you fill the bar again, and you make a materia. is what I
Oh,
would guess.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I would guess. I
So
don't
it's
know.
not like you're taking a shirt, you're balling it up, and then
Into
like,
a
this is
materia.
materia now. Like, it's
So
Yeah,
you could get the
it's-
materia and then also maybe turn it in, because that sounds good.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
maybe-
I'm sitting
yeah.
there going, do I convert this? Do I desynth this? Do I turn it in? What
you're
gives
like,
me
I'm gonna
the
roll
most-
the dice. Let's
Mhm.
convert this. Awesome.
Yeah,
Earth
let's see.
+2.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
Maybe
you.
it doesn't replenish. Maybe it's just you spirit
Yeah.
bond once, make one materia, and then a spirit bound to maximum.
It's a way. I think it's. I mean, maybe they probably talked about it. The slide didn't give
Yeah.
us that much information, but
No.
I think it's at least a way to get the one spirit bond
Yeah.
100% out of it, and then whatever you want.
Either desynth or turn in.
which is
I
cool.
love.
Mhm.
Oh, go ahead. No, go for it. Go.
It's just
go for
cool
it.
because I always forget to like you spirit bond your raid gear. I'm not throwing that away. I'm not gonna.
Oh no!
turn it into
Oh
material,
no!
but now I
No!
could.
That's glamour. That's glamour. You don't get rid of that.
Exactly. Right.
That's
Can you
Exactly.
convert that stuff?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
if
think
you
so.
can
I
or
don't
not.
think you can.
I don't know.
There's some stuff you just can't convert, right?
I don't remember.
I wouldn't even.
ever
I would
seeing
even
that.
consider looking at that to see if I could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
don't know.
thing, right?
Yeah.
This is
I like
grams in the future that I will
Yeah.
never go back to get again.
Exactly.
No,
I like
I
that
worked
they're
hard for that
making-
Alexander set. Damn it! I'm not gonna convert it. Are you kidding me?
I like that they're making some of these little changes that are just, I think, they're just good. Their quality of life. They've been focusing way more on crafters and gatherers than I was anticipating. I'd love to see a
Yeah.
little one added that's like, in a raid instance, you can repair your raid team. Like,
Oh.
that would be so good. Like, give me that one
Please.
too. But
Mhm.
it is really nice to see, like, with this end game that they're sort of
You used to
developing.
be able to do that.
Like, that would be amazing, and I would love that.
Back
That would
in
be
my
so
day.
good.
Yeah.
But like, I do like that they're kind of adding this end game and sky steel tools. Now, I didn't get into crafting and gathering until recently, but didn't they have back in ARR relics that you could get as well? Like there's like OG crafter gatherers, but then they just didn't
Yeah.
have them for the other
That's
parts.
what I was
Yeah.
talking about earlier when
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
saying I
okay.
hope they're not as annoying. Because they were annoying.
Yeah.
They're like, go get
Uh,
like 80 of this one. Sorry, Charles. Of this one
That's-
item and smoosh it
Yeah.
all over your weapon, and then
I do think that Yoshi-P said they were going to be easier than just the regular relics, which is hopefully fingers crossed.
It's-
Though.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things is that they want to have more side progression content,
Mm.
even if it's not like a raid progression or something like that. It's there's a lot of crafting and gathering classes that people can mess
Yeah.
around with, and so now we have the stuff to mess around with those on. And
Mhm.
it of course with the scripts, right, it pours back into glamour that you can use on whatever class you want, or you can get a minion or whatever. And then we'll also be getting either again probably like the 5.25, right, we'll get the relic stuff for War and Magic, right? So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of little grindy stuff to do, and I think it's like it sucks because it's grindy, but it's also an MMO, and it's nice to have stuff
Yeah.
to do, right?
It's
So
just
Yeah.
interesting.
And that's a
Yeah.
way to help, honestly, because if you have one single big grind, people get burnt out. But if you have
Yeah.
a lot of things that you can kind of rotate between, or you can pick and choose what you want to do or what you want to focus on, I think that makes it a lot nicer, so that you
Yeah.
don't just feel like all I've done for the past 2 months is just this one thing and I want to die. Like, I think it's gonna just give people a little bit of variation. And 14's always been really good about having
Right.
just
Yeah.
so much stuff that you can do if you actually go in and look for it and start exploring it.
yeah, it's like I've made 10,000 lampposts for this Guardian Restoration.
Yeah.
They will be the brightest city on the planet because of my contributions. And now I'm going to go work on making a lance. So yeah, it'll be nice to have a little bit of variety. Lots of,
Mhm.
if you want to chill a little bit, go do some ocean fishing. Like there's a lot of variety, Diadem, there's a lot of variety with stuff that you can do. For miscellaneous updates for patch 5.2, surprise, a new elegant tombstone will be added. Didn't see that coming.
Just keep finding those things.
Additional new game plus chapters, since we're going to be getting new MSQ. A rank increase for free companies. Okay.
all right.
What does it
Sure.
mean?
What does
Yeah,
it
for it.
mean?
What does it mean? Yeah,
For it.
what does this unlock? I don't.
Like a tier
Uh,
3 of action boosters? That would be
Maybe.
You must
don't
be
know.
rank 9 to buy a house in Ishgard.
Oh boy.
I mean, if they want to lock that down more,
That's fine.
whatever. The system's
Yeah.
already stupid. You
People
might
do
you can't do any more to it, in my opinion. Just
It'll
whatever.
be so far ahead of the actual housing that you'll have some time to do it.
And there's gonna be like 64 different words anyway, so who cares? Like, it's fine, whatever. New courses for Leap of Faith, for the Gold Saucer minigame. Fellowships can now be viewed in the companion app.
I didn't
Great.
understand that sentence.
Let's
what are
take-
either of those things?
So
What does that mean?
so here's the way I interpret it. Thing that we thought could be interesting turns out to be dumb, can now be viewed in the thing that is dumb and no one uses.
This one sentence made me so mad when I saw it. Like, I just want to be real. I don't get, like, I don't know what it is for all of us here in our fam that fellowships became such a thing. But the more we talked about it that one day on the podcast, the more I was like, who designed this and why? Why is this in our game? And then when I saw this little line about it, it's not Fellowships has a search bar. It's not Fellowships can now be searched alphabetically. It's not Fellowships now can be up permanently. It's not
it's not Fellowships are useful in any meaningful way. It's no, Fellowships can now be viewed in the app that everyone universally hates and is worthless.
It's like, if the Fellowships were better...
Okay.
If you are gone for a week, as I have been in the past, you can log into the app and re-up your retainers.
Okay.
Well, I mean, all right.
So that they don't stop selling stuff.
Okay.
Unused.
No, it's just, it's frustrating because I think the possibilities of Fellowships and the companion app are both so good, but they are so massively under-realized. Like,
it goes back to how we were talking about how you have free companies, you have link shells, you have Fellowships, and none of them are great, and they all have features that one universal type of thing should have, and they just keep it's like housing. They're just being stupid about it. They need to just take a minute, look at everything, and just make one good, not sucky thing.
Yeah, like, if they just combined all of this, like we were talking about, it would be so much better. Like, what if your free company was cross-world, so anybody could be on it? You had a message board like you do on Fellowships, and or a calendar where you could schedule things, and it would just automatically post, like, today is X event, or something in, like, the little, update. Like, you could, just because it is a cross-world, you wouldn't need a cross-world link shell because you could all talk to each other. And then if you wanted to, maybe you could be a part, like if they don't want to let you be a part of multiple FCs, then sure, maybe there are interest groups that you could also be a part of. But like, put all of this stuff into FCs and then put it on the companion app, because then you're part of an FC and you're like, oh, right, I'm not at home right now. What's happening this week? What time is that event? What's going on? What's the free company talking about?
And here's the thing, right? So what they need an in-game scheduling tool that links up with the app, because there isn't one. That's why nobody uses the damn scheduling tool on the app, because there's no game integration. Like, you need to have, like, add real-time communication for your FC. Add a message board for your FC, not your Mahjong club or whatever the hell. Like, what do you even use Fellowships for? Like, it's just... Anyway.
I mean, I have so many feelings, and
Yeah. And we could spend another hour and a half talking about this again, and let's not.
Let's not do it. The last bullet is way more exciting.
I was so hyped for this. You have no idea.
Can I just say, this is the best sentence, like, in the whole thing.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to give some context for this before, because people saw this and were like, what? People are like, oh, so we're not getting like more hairstyles usable for my Hrothgar or Vieira, but we get this? What even is this? Frankfurt Fan Fest. So it's been a while. Also, announced before Hrothgar and Vieira even existed. So if you're in the hair boat, we were first. We're getting umbrellas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are it's a mount. It's a flying mount.
Yes.
Umbrella mount. This was talked about
Mary
at the
Poppins,
Fan Fest in Frankfurt. Yeah,
Exactly.
And that was one of the discussions during that live letter, is how is it animated? Is it, Yoshida even did like Mary Poppins? Like, yes, absolutely. So umbrellas are coming. Please look forward to it. I know I will.
Exactly.
Unlike this next bullet point.
Oh boy.
So one of the things they did during the 14-hour broadcast was they had some of the community reps out looking for Hino-san from level 5. And as soon as I heard that was a thing, I was like, oh no. We are getting the return of everyone's favorite immersion breaking event, Yokai Watch. But this time, there will be new minions and weapons for Red Mage, Samurai, Gunbreaker, and Dancer. The mount will be easier to obtain, and we don't know when this will show up. But please look forward to it.
I'm so glad
or don't.
I didn't grind out for that stupid ghost mount.
Oh,
Yeah,
either
me
did
too.
I. That was stupid.
And I'm
That requirement
so
was
sorry
terrible.
to anybody.
I'm so sad for
I finished the
Oh
few
my
weapons I
God.
wanted, and I like spent 20 minutes I'm gonna get them out because like back then I was like super hardcore, like I gotta get all the seasonal stuff when it shows up. After 20 minutes of Fates, I was like, you know what? No way in hell.
I've done every
Absolutely
event
not.
except this one. I didn't do
Absolutely
it
not.
at
Yeah.
all. I did not
Yeah.
a single thing for Yokai Watch, and I have
Yeah.
not regretted it at
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
I got some of the minions that I wanted, but
Yeah.
again, like it was one of those things where I got into it and I was like, oh my gosh, they want me to do how much for what? Like, and
Yeah.
there's weapons and minions and a mount, and like if I were to get all that stuff, it was gonna take me forever. And I mean, it would be really nice if people who already have acquired the mount maybe got some like the
Yes.
discrepancy
Yes.
of currency like added to their
They-
account
That'd
or
be cool.
something.
I would like to see, and this is something that I've been a huge advocate for ever since they messed up with the damn Raven earrings. Give them the mount. It can be, of course, the issue here, right, is there's no item description. You can't click on somebody's mount and see what it's called or anything.
Yeah.
But there needs to be just a little
Even
minor
Korea.
discrepancy in game. Call it like the new or reproduced or something, or make the original one the legacy something. Add a distinction that is player visible to other players, not just yourself, because that's just slapping everybody in the face that worked their ass off to get it the first time,
Yeah.
and that sucks.
Yeah.
Like it
was a
really
huge
does.
grind. Like it was an
crazy.
enormous
Yeah,
grind.
it
I mean,
was. It was ridiculous.
so I mean, yeah, even if they just gave it like a little special visual effect or something, just to say like, hey, you spent more on this, so that would be nice. I mean, I'm excited overall because, I mean, it'll be nice to go in and get some more things from it. Would I also love maybe like a totally new, fresh event? Yeah, like, but I mean, it is good, and I know there are a lot of people that
At
I've
least we're
seen
getting
in
new
various.
weapons.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like in various communities, I've seen a lot of people who are saying, I missed this event and I actually really want a lot of the stuff from it because there was just so much. So like being able to have that come up again for players, I think will be great. It'll be really
Yeah.
great.
I looked at it and I saw the summoner book and I went, never doing that, and I never did.
I mean, I got a
Period.
few for like the few jobs I was like playing with at the time, and they didn't look great. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, like I don't
I'm
like
curious.
yokai.
Yeah, I'm curious how the dancer weapon is going to look, but I don't have high hopes at all.
No,
I liked
no.
the minions more than anything. Like
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
minions were really cute. The weapons, I mean, they're fun if you like those sort of like more stylized kind of humorous weapons, things like the gold saucer weapons and stuff like that. I mean, they're fun. But yeah, I did the same with the weapons. I was like, I think I'm good. I'll just get the
Yeah.
minions that I want.
Yeah.
Fine.
So at the end of the broadcast, as always, new merch that's coming out. We have the Art of Reflection Histories Forsaken. This is going to be the first Shadowbringers art book. It is set to release on March 31st in Japan. We will get it later. I think where is it? May. So we'll get it for NA and EU in May. For whatever reason, it costs more in
What?
NA. So that's cool because traditionally the quality is also lower than the Japanese version. So that's nice. Thanks. We're getting it late, and it'll probably still be lesser quality. Awesome. Thanks. Square.
Maybe they're fixing it, and that's
Yeah, maybe they're gonna update the quality though. Fusion, look
maybe.
on the bright
I hope.
side.
I
Yeah.
can't because
So
traditionally
funny.
that's been the case. So I'm just saying. If anyone
Just
from
saying.
Square is listening, fix whoever's printing
made
your art
Fusion
books for
angry.
NA.
Mhm.
Find somebody else because there's like the text, the covers. So you have like the book, and then you have like
Yeah.
the cover, right?
Yeah.
In
it does
Japan,
cover, yeah.
they're textured. The lettering is metallic.
Yeah.
In NA, no, none of that.
No.
None
It's
of
just
that.
like
The
a
pages,
flat.
the pages
It-
feel cheaper. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it
Is
sucks.
it a paperback or a hardcover?
paperback?
Paperback.
Oh, it's paperback. Oh.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But
I mean, I
that's
do
the
have to
same.
say-
That's the same for all regions though. But it's
Okay.
it's that outside cover that's definitely high quality versus the NA, and then the just inside it feels a little bit cheaper. But
Yeah.
we do get like 3 pages that are translated into English.
Yeah.
And you get a wind
I
up
guess.
Dulia chai which I think is really the key here.
That's cute.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So there you
cute,
go.
That's
So
cute.
that'll be coming out soon. The next piece of merch, which Japan, why you got to do this? So when they first introduced Domen Mahjong, they had some contests or giveaways that you could do where you could actually win a set of like the Domen Mahjong tiles, and they were like super limited. Like you had to like win this thing, and that was the only way you'd be able to ever get one. They are now selling the whole set of Domen Mahjong tiles. They are 18,000 yen, so that's like $180.
Yeah, let's say that's.
And then for another 6,800 yen, so you're basically looking at like $200 for the tiles, and then like $70 for the mat.
Yeah.
Which look, if you play Mahjong and you play
Yeah.
14, this is a really cool looking set. Like I think it's really cool.
beautiful.
I don't play Mahjong at all, but there's still a little part of me that wants it. This is going to be out on March 23rd. This is Japan only.
Of course.
Oh, seriously?
Because of course it is.
No.
Maybe there's a chance they'll have a few they can sell at FanFest or something. We'll just have to.
I didn't
kinda-
realize
Those
that.
import sites.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah.
thankfully get it imported. It is really unfortunate because, like, I saw this, and Fusion, I think, like what you said, I went, I don't even play Mahjong, but that is, like, I love that. That's cute. The set is so nice. It looks really great. But, and I have this problem, too, sometimes with some of the other exclusives they do, things like the Shiva statue and stuff like that, where I'm like, the quality of this might be exceptional, but that is a huge financial sink for someone who may not have that money, right? But who really maybe does want the emote or really wants, something about this. And I don't always feel like we have a really good, like, sliding scale of available products, at like
the
different
merch
prices.
is always super weird. And this is, I mean, when I asked Yoshida about this, gosh, this was probably middle of ARR, maybe right before Heavensward. I was like, what's the deal with the merch? Because you've got all this stuff on your JP store and we got nothing. And basically what he said is, at the time, he said there's this kind of rule internally that's like, we need to be able to make everything in Japan. So it's like, if we can change that and then make it an NA, maybe we can sell stuff in NA, or we can change how that stuff works. So I mean, they're definitely aware that people want things. Part of the other huge issue is all the Taito exclusives that they get, because there's a lot of them over in Japan. And like, if you want them in NA, you either need to like import them or like win them from a Duty Commence contest, like or the mini cactpot at FanFest. There's no easy way to get them, which is frustrating because Square Enix owns Taito. So I don't know why they're not making more of these things, making them more accessible to get. I mean, the Square Enix online store sucks, but I would use it if they had stuff on there. Otherwise, I'm going, even in the case of like the Orchestra Blu-ray that we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
I never buy that stuff off of Square Enix's store because it costs more, and they end up ninjaing the date back because their shipments get delayed or they send them out late. I had a friend of mine, they had it was a Chocobo, it was a card game or board game or something like that, charged him, and they didn't send it to him for like months because they didn't even have it. Like, their store sucks. Like, it does. It's not friendly to fans at all. And their merchandising in general, it's very Japan focused, and they need to stop and realize that they're a global game. 18 million registered accounts. The majority of that is not Japanese. I'm afraid to tell you, Square.
Yeah, I would be so interested in seeing the breakdown of like regional player populations, because it's really fascinating to me that I do think, I mean, yes, Japan, there's a huge base there. And of course, it's where they create this game. And I'm sure they want to feel like a loyalty to their player base there and making sure that they know this is like, a game we make here. Like, you totally understand that. But it is really frustrating when we have these problems over, in a growing market where, I mean, even just in the last couple of years, we've seen another boom in population as, different players from WoW and things are starting to come over, or, we're getting recognition for this new Xbox.
This game is coming out on Xbox. And guess where Xbox has the most people playing? North America. So definitely not Japan.
So yeah, I think they need to kind of adjust it, and they need to also offer some products that, I mean, like you said, are not massively expensive, like
Yes.
imports. You know, we need some things like, I would love if they had a mahjong set like this that was more like a beginner's mahjong set, you know, and it was cute.
A lot of the issues too
Yeah,
with issues, right? It's when they make something, they usually don't skimp on the quality, which means the price is going to be way up. So like, make like a plastic cheap set of mahjong tiles, like, you know, like they won't, but you know, it's like all their jewelry and stuff is like 100 plus because it's
and don't get me wrong, like, don't get me wrong, I love that they are so quality, and I sometimes when I talk about this, people are like, but they're so quality, and I'm like, no, I absolutely love that, but I also know people who love this game so much that they have to make the choice a lot of times. This isn't a joke, these are like real stories that I've heard. They have to make a choice because they love merch, they want the in-game rewards, and so they say, do I get groceries this month, or do I spend, you know, $200 plus $300 on a statue? And I feel like it's tough because I think you should have those really nice collector's items for people who want them. And I would love if they weren't just these like limited releases that kind of force people to like rush because they really think that, you know, I get that sometimes you can only do a limited run because of printing reasons, but I would love to see more offered that is more affordable and that still lets people feel like I can support and I love these things and I want to have these things for the game that I love, but that aren't going to literally make me choose between feeding myself or like getting this exclusive thing because I'm a loyal fan, you know? Like
and the statues are great. I mean, I have a few. You can't really see them, but yeah, I have a whole case full of that stuff. But it's you do get some cheaper items every so often, but the reality of it is Japan or like the coin set, like that was the big one, right? It premiered at EU Fan Fest this past year. Took them forever for them to even put them on the store for NA. So you're a global game, like, and I don't know what issues they're having, because I feel like they are aware that they have this game playable in North America, Japan, and Europe, but the ability for them to make products and merch accessible for this is like, even if you go on the store right now and you look for like a Final Fantasy 14 shirt, the only stuff you can find is like smalls left over from FanFest 4 years ago, or Japanese sizes. And I hate to say it because I wish I could, I can't wear a Japanese anything, which sucks because I have the Dragoon hoodie from FanFest a few years back, and I want to wear it, but I can't.
That's such a good point. And the thing is that I feel like they're almost just shooting themselves in the foot. Because, like, for example, this Paisa shirt that I'm wearing, right? I did exactly that. I was like, I really want some Final Fantasy shirts to wear. I went on to Square Enix first because I was like, I want to go to, you know, the source. And I went there and there was not really anything. Like, there were a few shirts that were, I mean, I could get them and they'd probably have the Final Fantasy logo, but like they weren't those iconic characters that I wanted. No. They weren't in, you know, they were only an extra large. And
we're
or they
still
were,
waiting
you know...
on the topic of shirts. I mean, we had the last live letter. They showed the Hylian vs. Zodiac shirt. Yeah. They had the acrylic standees, and I feel like there was one other thing on there. And those have been up to pre-order on Japan side since that live letter. I don't think we have those yet at all on the NA site. So I don't understand. I mean, I'm hoping that part of it is they are trying to find somebody over here to make them
or something,
and to make them well.
Yeah.
But the biggest reason why stuff is always so delayed is because it's imports, and imports get held up sometimes, and that's I don't know. And it's weird. Like the cost sucks. The timing sucks. They need to be better. Like, I don't know, I don't know the ins and outs of all that kind of stuff, but they need to be better, and they've needed to be better forever. So
literally ever. Yeah.
Literally ever.
As long as they existed.
Yeah. And I mean, like, they've gotten better, right? They're still not great, but like, from back in the day, like, overall Square Enix, like, the transparency for 14 has been great. Coming from the perspective of an 11 player that, like, before live streaming, it's like, how do we get FanFest info? Like, it was terrible. Like, we have to there were sites dedicated to translating like Famitsu interviews, because that was the only way we would hear stuff. And now they have live letters, even if they're not always in English. Like, it would have been really cool to like know what that interview with Soken was, but they're not bothering to give us that information for whatever reason. Merch has always been rough. It's gotten better, but again, their store sucks. The service for it sucks. And the quality of some of the stuff that we do get is less than what Japan gets. And as a fan that wants to give them money, that is infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, buying from them shouldn't be more expensive, later arrival, and like lower quality than importing the Japanese version of a product.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I
tough.
could do
hope
this
they
all
keep
day.
improving.
So
No,
I'm just
I
gonna
know.
Stop.
I mean, it's so interesting, and
Fusion Summoner.
This is right. This is like my thing.
This
yeah.
is your thing. Yeah.
It's a
No, and I mean,
summoner.
it's a good discussion to have, because especially as the game grows, these are conundrums that they are really like encountering, and that we as players are having to grapple with. That is great on one hand because it leads to a lot of fan creation, but it's bad on the other hand because when you don't have really easily accessible products of a wide variety of ranges and good quality, people have to go outside of that. And we've even seen some conflicts in the community with things like the Aetheryte earrings, which were made by a community member, which got so popular that Square Enix, and they don't normally do this, but they had to step in and say, you can't sell these anymore.
Well, that's the thing, right? If Square doesn't do it, people are going to jump on Etsy, and then that's copyright infringement.
Yeah.
So it's like, Square, like...
But like they do
Get
or
on
don't
it.
pursue a lot of it. Like they allow a lot of people to sell fan merch. And I mean, fan merch is something that I've acquired, and it's great because people love it, but it's frustrating when you do want to use those official sources, but you are basically like blocked out of it because
That ain't
they
nothing
it's
there.
really interesting. It's the opposite way of the opposite of the way they handle the game. We have
really.
the crafting simulator right now. There's lots of sites and stuff out there that do that, and Square said, you know what? That's a great feature. Let's bring that into the game. They see people making merch, like Jobstone stuff. Like, that's really cool. Let's not make that for ourselves and make money. Of course, knowing Square, they would make those and they'd be $250 for one. So
like quartz or something,
right, with with
diamond
made with some special designer and Anyway, I could tangent this forever. Nice little ending to the live letter. FanFest 2020 and 2021.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I you say that, I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah, we're not first.
Well,
is that the order though?
Oh.
Is that the order?
know.
That's a good point.
Are they just saying, hey, we're going to be doing one in Japan, North America, and Europe? I want it to be the order.
Yeah.
I
want it to
do
be the
too.
order.
I do too.
But I don't know.
Because I mean, and I've said it before, like, yes, we get the reveal, but then we also don't get any other information, and it's
it's true.
We
And
have
it always
never gotten
seems-
it. Well, I say we never got a job reveal, but we got Blue Mage. But is Blue Mage
That's
really a
true.
job?
No.
Let's not get into that again.
Yeah, that's not.
So no additional details right now. They're just saying that it's happening. They did talk a little bit about how
There is-
people were really upset about North America last time. So
Yeah.
we'll have to find a bigger spot. We don't know where that's going to be. They don't either. So hopefully we'll get
One translation I read said that means no Vegas, which bums me out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I'm fine if they.
I saw that, but
Yeah.
also, like, what about the convention center? That would be bigger than the Rio.
Yeah, it does
it's
seem to me like
bigger.
it
I
could
don't
be a
know.
discussion of the cost of a larger space versus, and
Well,
for them to
it's-
set
yeah.
up
Oh, yeah.
there. I don't know.
It's
Um,
absolutely at this point, it's going to be a cost thing if they need to get a much bigger space. And I think, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit next week. But I think if you're looking at a bigger venue, your cost total, right? Like, that's going to jump. So then you're going to say, okay, where can we cut costs? Well, if we don't fly everybody from our office in California out to Vegas, that's a good chunk of money that we can save. So a lot of people are going, East Coast Fan Fest. It's probably going to be in LA somewhere.
Yeah,
like,
they're
I think it's
gonna
going to be
do East Coast.
California.
Yeah.
it'll be
It's gonna
Cali.
Cali, most likely.
I mean, plus, like, California is so much easier for anybody flying from Japan to reach, you know?
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's
I,
just,
I always think that they did Vegas just because Yoshida wanted to go to
White.
Vegas.
Oh, please do not pick like the Moscone Center in San Francisco or something like that, because that's like okay, you know, AX is at the convention center, you know, like E3 is at the convention center in LA. Please do not pick the Moscone Center, like, because that's where GDC is, and I love GDC. I get to go, but like, oh my,
why not?
goodness, would that
Why not? Why not do Anaheim?
Yeah, Anaheim would be great. Kind of spread out.
I mean, that'd be a nice kind of full circle. I mean, they had a Final Fantasy XI fan fest at the hotel next to the Anaheim Convention Center.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just excited to see them.
And then we can do Disney.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, I'm excited to see them actually acknowledging that they have to change this, because I think last year there was so much writing on the wall about, I think that our game, like our population of people who are interested in doing this, and like we discussed actually a couple weeks ago, the fact that especially in NA, there's such a limited offering of fan get-togethers, special events, bonus events, those sorts of things, right? So already there's going to be a lot of people that literally like plan a year around this, because they know like if I don't do it this year, I'm not going to be able to do it again.
And it sucks. I already have friends that have been messaging me like, I am stressing over getting tickets for this thing already, and they haven't even announced the details, just that it's a thing that's happening. Like it's,
and that's what happened to me last year. Like I tried to get the tickets, and myself and a billion other people weren't able to. And again, you never want that to be the case, especially if it's an event where you could be making more money off of it. So I'm hoping that like by upping the scale, not only is it going to show like, hey, you know, there's a huge interest for this, and you have a really big popular player base here that's excited about the game, but it'll also, you know, open up opportunities for people to not feel as panicked. So I'm really hoping that they expand that.
I think I hope that they change up a little bit how tickets work this time around, because there was that whole thing like last time where people were given like a code, but then you didn't need the code, some people were saying, and it was a whole thing, and they need to be better about I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if they like lotteries aren't really a thing here, but they could, right? They could do a lottery, say you want to this, you know, how many tickets do you want to buy, and did you have an active account?
I still
the problem is there's no good way to do
that though. I mean,
the problem is there's no good way to do it, and no matter what they do, even if it seems fair, there will be people that think that it wasn't, and it's a nightmare. And I am not envious of the people that are responsible for figuring this stuff out.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's true. It's just that I think it's to the point now where, I mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I actually have no idea. So like BlizzCon, right? Now Blizz obviously covers a bunch of different titles, but I can't remember seeing, at least in recent years, any of this like mass panic about it, where, you know, people are like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get tickets to BlizzCon unless you've waited until, you know, the pre-orders are over and everything's over and it's almost time for BlizzCon, and then it's sold out, you can't get them.
It's funny because my first BlizzCon last year, I actually got tickets on the very last wave that was just like leftovers and scraps.
And you were
so I did get in right at the end. Just me and a friend, hey, you want to do BlizzCon? Sure, let's try.
I mean, I think that it should be closer to that than like 2 seconds and it's gone. I mean, Square Enix is a big enough company that they could easily, I mean, it's harder coordinating again from JP to NA, but I mean, it's not like they don't have the clout behind them. It's just that I think they need to anticipate accurately that like a convention is not quite the same as like even a Distant Worlds concert, right? Where you have like a house and that house sells out from the seats and like that's it. Like a convention is a much larger social event for people. And, you know, it's a great way to also advertise your game, incentivize the community, have massive social media presence for those days that it's going. Like, there's so much that you can utilize with that. And I think that hopefully this is a step towards them saying, like, yes, we need to make it bigger. And we know that. Like, we have the support, so we can do it, you know?
And especially after seeing, like Shanghai's event, like, holy shit, Shanghai. Like,
theirs was amazing.
Damn.
It was awesome.
And you know, a lot of that probably wasn't Square Enix. It was the company in China that operates the game. So
you know, you can't do it. You can't do this a third time to the player base, because if you're like, we're gonna get a bigger venue, and everyone's like, oh man, it's gonna be great, and there's 1,000 more tickets. The fourth time, people are like, well, it's not even worth it, and they won't do
Yeah.
it, and then you'll have the bigger venue, and
It's
then you won't
so-
fill it. Like you're
it's-
gonna have a self-fulfilling prophecy if you don't.
I feel like
Self-unfilling.
there's always something
Yeah.
with the fan fest, right? It's
Mhm.
the merch line,
Mhm.
or the merch line the second year
Sure.
with registers going out, or
Mhm.
it's availability of tickets. Like there's always something, and it's
Yeah.
just
I mean, with any convention, there is.
Sure.
And I mean,
Yeah.
like, I remember the early years that I started going to Anime Central in Chicago, ASEN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah.
so many inconveniences. Just, oh my God. Like,
Mhm.
even just to get your badge for the convention, right? Because before they started doing big pre-order batches and stuff like that, right? You'd have to go and wait in line like the day before the convention started. And the
Mhm.
amount of time you would spend in line was like 8+ hours. People would bring food with them, like to
Mhm.
eat meals the whole day while they waited in line. And it's like, on one hand, it's fun because that creates memories, kind of like Robot X,
Sure.
like you
Yeah.
overcome something
Ugh.
together and then you laugh about it.
I have
you know,
memories from the
years.
8-hour merch line. None of them
Right.
are good memories.
No.
But I think that, I mean, it's at the point where FanFest is such an incredible experience.
Yes.
People should feel empowered to go, not as
Yeah.
if they need to be afraid that they will even be able to manage to snag a ticket or have
Mhm.
something which was truly the worst. Like seeing all these people plan these, events for their FCs, and they're all going to meet together. And that's what MMOs are about, right? This community,
Mhm.
this playing together. And then one person can't get a ticket.
Yeah.
3 people can't get a ticket.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have this, I mean, you're creating a negative emotion with what
Mhm.
should be a really big celebration. And I'm hoping that they address that. I'm sure they're working towards
Yeah.
it. It's just anticipating on a big scale to really react to it and give people like more tickets rather than less
Mhm.
tickets,
I'm really curious what their budget is per region.
Sure.
So-
I mean, you look at again going back to fan gatherings and stuff, and we'll talk about that again next week. But
Next week.
the idea of like with the live letter, when they do the live letters, they're like, we're gonna go to all the prefectures in Japan and we'll do like a live letter.
Mhm.
Like that's really cool. What have you done in NA that's even close to that? You had a launch event for ARR, and then fan fests, and then nothing. Like you had some
Yeah.
booths at PAX. That's not
Yeah.
anything. Like
The media tour was really cool, but again, there were problems with that because since they don't have a really defined creator program,
Yeah.
there were a whole bunch of people that are really active creators in NA who had no idea how to even get an invite.
yeah, well
or
that's like a
something,
whole
like,
that's a whole
mean, yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
thing though.
But the idea is that, I mean, all of those things speak to the fact that communication and the support that's over here, as far as like the social outreach outside of the game support, there are these weird issues and breakdowns and hangups that kind of happen where I think it
Mhm.
does leave players kind of going, what? Like when they run into them and they're not really sure.
We're
Like-
very much second rate players over here. I mean, again, going back like with the merch, with the lack of events, it's really weird, and I'm curious what the budget thing is. Does NA just not have that kind of budget? Like, why
don't know,
does
maybe.
Japan then? They can fly a crew and a whole bunch
Yeah.
of computers for a battle challenge all over Japan, but they can't like have one official fan gathering between
They
fan
built
fests.
A Mako reactor at E3.
They did, and
Come on.
the event, the big
Oh.
Avengers thing.
Yeah. Come on.
And yeah, it's
Come on.
Here's
weird.
my
I mean,
prediction.
maybe
How
they're
much did
just
that cost?
spending a lot of money at PAXs and stuff like that. That could
Maybe.
very well be because
Yeah, which is fine.
we're a little saturated here with gaming events.
We are.
But yeah, I would be really curious to see what the division of the marketing budget is, because it's just it doesn't feel like it adds up per like what your return on investment would be, right, with the populations of each region.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
What do I
Here's my
know?
prediction for the problem for this upcoming FanFest.
Oh
Oh.
God, all right.
What the problem's
They're
gonna be.
they're gonna find a venue with
Mhm.
enough space for everybody who wants to go. Everybody who wants to go is gonna get a ticket, and then when we get
Okay.
there, there's not going to be enough computers for us all to play the various events in a
Those lines are
timely
gonna be
fashion.
insane.
So those lines are going to be long.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean,
could
that's a
see
good
it. I could
prediction.
see it. Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
for most of those big events, yeah.
Could be.
The first year, the lines were pretty bad. The second and third year, they were pretty decent.
I mean,
if there were more,
I
if there were
almost
more
walked right up
people-
last year. Yeah.
Yeah, if there are more people, if they don't estimate the right number of computers,
Well,
they're
you know,
gonna-
and
they're
here's
gonna have
here's
a
the
bad
thing,
time.
right? The
Yeah.
more people you have, the more things you need to have for them to do.
Yeah.
Simultaneously occurring, yeah.
Right, and you know, like Blizzard, I think does a really good job of handling this stuff. Of course, they have, you know, they do it every year, and they know what they're doing at this point. But, you know, with NA Fan Fest, they don't want people to feel like they have to sit and watch the main stage the whole time.
Yeah.
If you double the size, or you know, go even higher than that, you need a stage with something all the time. Because there's going to be people that are burned out from standing in line or doing PC stuff. They're going to want to sit and watch
Honestly,
something.
That's the reason that I like that it's in Vegas, because when I'm done with the thing, or if I can't get into the thing that I want to do, well, here's Vegas.
That's true too. That's true too. And I mean, Square, if you need help with programming, we'll do a live podcast. I mean, they have so many content creators out there that they could get together to help do stuff with.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
They
More than
really,
willing
you know,
to.
yeah. So
There's a ton of stuff they could do. And they might do. I mean, I'm genuinely, like, all of this big discussion aside, because we've really got into some of the nitty-gritty, I'm so excited for this.
Oh,
and it is
definitely
such an
so.
incredible time to get to, like,
We
spend
sound
with
negative,
everybody.
but we're not. We're
No.
excited.
yeah.
I mean, this
we
sort
we
of
want more
breakdown-
people to be able to experience the joys that we have when we attend
Yes.
FanFest.
Yes, and like the last thing that you ever want to see, especially as people who like talk about the game or are involved in the game in any kind of way, is for people to have a bad experience with what is otherwise such a cool community and an incredible title.
Exactly.
And so, like, for me, I know, like, especially right now, it's such a critical time where we have so many people coming into the game for the first time, where we're gonna have like a whole episode about the Game Awards. I feel like we haven't talked about this, but even so, where Shadowbringers has been recognized on a grand scale, and I think a lot of the work the team has put into the game, which has just been revolutionary for MMOs, and really comes from a place of love and diligence with our team. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, now is such an important time, I think, to really like solidify those bonds with a new audience and, you know, a new group. And I'm so pumped, and I can't wait to see everybody there. I really, really want to make it. So it's going to be amazing. But it is really interesting to talk about a lot of this stuff and kind of, you know, look forward at how we can keep improving a lot of this back and forth.
Definitely. With that having been said, next week we're going to have Alex Main on, who heads up KupoCon, if you guys have ever heard of that. Fan-made Final Fantasy gathering. So we'll be talking to him. We'll be talking about fan run events. We'll probably be talking about FanFest a little bit more.
Yeah.
So make sure to tune in to that. That'll be next week. And then after that, we're off for a couple weeks for the holidays. So
And so are you.
yeah. So take it easy. If you want, you can email us, aetheryteradio@gamerscape.com. You can tweet at us at aetheryteradio. And Gamerscape, Facebook Gamerscape, and Discord, discord.gg/Gamerscape. We have an Aetheryte radio channel there. We've got a 14 channel, all sorts of stuff to come in and talk about. So come join us there, and we will see you guys here next week.
Goodbye.
Yes. Bye, everybody.